Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Life Simulation, I Am Above Time. Chapter 1. You have a head hanging from a beam, a cone and a thorn in your buttocks. You studied hard for 10 years in a cold window, but failed to pass the exam. It will be another 10 years of cold weather and I won't win the imperial examination. Long-term hunger will make you sick. You are sick to death. You have lived for 38 years, and you have dreamed of becoming famous all over the world for 10 years. But I don't know that my heart is higher than the sky and my life is thinner than paper. Evaluation. A wasted life, pure waste. You uncle. Henry Jong stared, watching the transparent light curtain in front of him slowly dissipate. What the hell is this piece of shit? Why does it still use curse words? Half a month ago, he went home to clean up the house in his hometown and found a quaint box. When he opened it, a light flashed in his eyes and he fainted. Then he got cheat. It is a reincarnation simulator called Salvation Plan. Every day, he can enter reincarnation and simulate life. But, shouldn't it be called a life simulator or a reincarnation simulator? How to name a salvation plan? Now is a society ruled by law and the world is at peace. There is great harmony among people, and everyone is receiving blessings. Can you be used to save them? Judging from Henry Jong's experience of more than 10 simulations, although the background of the simulation is ancient times. However, it is not any dynasty that Henry Jong is familiar with. In other words, the simulation environment is completely empty. Number of reincarnations today, 0. Entry, 0. Looking at the display on the light screen, Henry Jong was speechless for a while. He can reincarnate once a day. If you get an A-level evaluation, you can randomly get talents or items from this reincarnation. Perfect level evaluation, must obtain talent entry. It's a pity that after more than 10 reincarnations, his best evaluation was only B level. Like today, it was directly rated as waste, without even a rating. Henry Jong ate something, then lay on the bed and started watching short videos. In the morning news, a family of 4 was brutally murdered. Is it a vendetta or is there another hidden agenda? The police promised to solve the case within 3 days and give the public an explanation. People don't believe rumors and don't spread rumors. Henry Jong shook his head. Today is a harmonious society, there are not so many perverts, it is just a mental illness. This is completely normal. Henry Jong changed the news again. On the morning of the 18th, a tragedy occurred in a mahjong parlor. It is reported that after a woman accepted the betrothal gift, she broke off the engagement but refused to return the betrothal gift. The man couldn't bear it and found the woman in the mahjong parlor with a knife to murder. Henry Jong put down his phone. Just a case, just a case. This month, what is the first homicide case in the city? Henry Jong frowned and thought for a while, probably 7th or 8th. Phew, startled him. There have only been less than 10 cases. Isn't it normal for some homicides to occur in a city with a population of millions? Anyway, it will definitely not fall on him. Thinking like this, Henry Jong took out the scissors, the kitchen knife, the boning knife, and the bone chopping knife from under the bed, sharpened them, and then put them away. Yee. Finally, I took out the fitness equipment and started exercising. He just likes to exercise and has absolutely nothing to do with the murder. After midnight, Henry Jong couldn't wait to open the Salvation Plan simulator. If someone has to stand up, why can't that person be me? An opening remark sounded in Henry Jong's mind. Tisk, it's really a chunabu. Henry Jong rolled his eyes. This was obviously a line for a hero. What does it have to do with a little fool like him? The entry is being generated. Congratulations on getting the temporary blue entry. Stay hungry. Hungry. Your resistance to hunger and physical pain is greatly increased. You won't be weakened by them until you die. Henry Jong was shocked. After simulating so many times, this was the first time he got a blue entry. For each simulation, the system will randomly select an entry. Entries are divided into 4 levels, namely white, blue, purple and gold. For more than 10 days, he has been making white entries that are so random that they are useless. This is the first time I've gotten a blue entry. However, even though this entry is blue, it has an unpleasant feeling. Henry Jong continued to read. Apocalypse, 47 years, you were born. You are an abandoned child, without a father or a mother. Yes, he knew the system had bad intentions. A crazy beggar picked you up in a ruined temple. From now on, he will take you to beg for a living. Because of your talent of enduring hunger, you lived and grew up to be 10 years old. 10 years later, the crazy beggar starved to death, and you begged alone for a living. You accidentally broke into the territory of other beggars. In order not to be beaten to death by them, you joined in. It turns out that they are disciples of the beggar clan. You have become a disciple of the beggar clan. You work hard and try your best to climb up. You follow them and beg forcibly. You follow them and take advantage of everything. You follow them to grab territory. You are used to seeing all the dark sides in the world, and you think your heart is harder than iron, until you saw the harvesting, breaking and cutting. You watched beggars steal or rob, and those innocent children had their hands and feet broken. Those innocent children were stripped of their human skins and put on dog skins. Your heart, which is as cold as stone, also trembles. You secretly reported it to the official, but saw that the official took the initiative to help cover it up. You secretly spread the word into the world, but the world is pretending to be deaf and dumb. The world is rotten. If no one steps up to save these children, why can't that person be you? When he saw this line of words, Henry Jong was silent. The simulator is not just text, it is a piece of real image presented in front of Henry Jong. Watching those children screaming, watching those children despair, he suddenly felt emotions that were very unfamiliar to him. That's naked murderous intent. It was as if Henry Jong's emotions were pouring into the simulator, and the eyes of the little beggar in the simulator were no longer rigid, but became more agile. Henry Jong looked at his tattered clothes and was slightly lost in thought. He is no longer a spectator, he enters the simulator. Trigger special functions and be immersed in the scene. Your thoughts are the thoughts of a beggar. Your behavior is the behavior of a beggar. The next plot is written by you. Henry Jong looked at the words in front of him and pondered slightly. Then, he showed a sick smile. It would be great to have him write it. If he is submissive in reality, let him go crazy in the simulator. You know very well that your own strength is weak and you are simply unable to fight against this general trend. You suppress your anger and continue to lie dormant. You become more dedicated, and you rush ahead in all tasks. For the sake of status, you are cruel and ruthless, sacrificing your own life. At the age of 18, you were favored by the elder and became his bodyguard. You were taught martial arts, the mad dog stick technique. Henry Jong was slightly startled. After so many simulations, something that interested him finally appeared. Your qualifications are average, but you are crazy and cruel enough. Mad dog stick technique will shine in your hands. The elder will take you to destroy your enemies. If the enemy is destroyed, you will also destroy the elder. You saw the elder tortured and killed the child, and you tortured and killed him with the same method. At the age of 20, you took over the position of the elder. You have a high position of authority. You are not greedy for pleasure, but you are even more crazy. People in the world give him a nickname, Crazy Beggar. You were taught martial arts and the method of subduing the dragon. You know, only by learning this mental method can you become a gang leader. Your mad dog stick technique is a great success, and your dragon subduing mind technique is a small success. 28 years old, you looked for the right moment and assassinated the gang leader. Selected by the gang leader, you will get the mining rights of a piece of blessed land. You hold an iron rod and kill like crazy, killing 35 martial arts masters in a row. You have obtained the mining rights of the blessed land. At the age of 29, you got the dog beating stick and became the leader of the beggar clan. You want reform. Before this, all the elders and disciples who were full of evil deeds died under your beating stick. Everyone thinks you are crazy. They no longer call you a crazy beggar, but a devil beggar. The beggar clan has dropped by 50% of its disciples. The beggar gang is on the verge of collapse. You didn't care and started drastic reforms. You are not allowed to beg by force. You are not allowed to burn, kill and loot. The most important thing is that you are not allowed to harvest or cut it. Those who violate gang rules will be killed without mercy. At this time, the government appeared. They say you are going against the grain and killing people like crazy. Is a demon. You are very surprised and ask them, why is it perverse if I don't allow beggar clan disciples to do evil? They warn you that if you don't go back to the past, they will wipe out your beggar gang immediately. You understand, the past they are talking about is the past of burning, killing and looting, the past of harvesting and harvesting. If you don't do this kind of thing, how will you get the money to honor them? You decide to give an explanation to the government. That night, you broke into the government office masked and cut off the county magistrate's head. The government does not dare to come forward forcefully anymore, but the undercurrent is surging. The beggar clan has a completely new look. In the world of martial arts, your title of demonic beggar is widely circulated. In the folk, your title of holy beggar is spread among the people. The people are increasingly supporting the beggar gang and yearning for the beggar gang. There are more and more disciples of the beggar clan, and they are getting stronger and stronger. The beggars have become better, but why are the people still suffering? You have clearly realized that it is not just the beggar gang that treats the common people as trivial, but also the Zhonghu and the imperial court. You have to reason with them. You have to set rules for all the major sects in the world. The various sects are suffering terribly and complaining. But fewer people are starving to death, and there are more smiles on their faces. It seems that your persuasion is useful. Under the coordination of the government, various sects united to attack the beggar gang. They look at you. Today, our famous and decent sects are going to eliminate demons and protect the Tao, and kill you, the demon. Dozens of top-notch experts are attacking you together. You are seriously injured and on the verge of death. You are getting more and more crazy. The dog-beating stick in your hand has turned into an afterimage, and you are fighting desperately. When your life is in danger, your talent, blue entry, starvation, promotion to gold entry, fight to the death. Unstoppable. Pain makes your blood boil, and fighting makes your fighting spirit high. The more your life is in danger, the more your combat power soars. Up to 10 times the upper limit, until the end of life. Henry Zhang didn't notice the entry prompt. His eyes were already red, and he was completely immersed in the simulation. He wants to kill. He wants to kill all this hypocritical world. Your mad dog stick technique breaks through the limits and advances to the crazy devil stick technique. The sky is filled with the shadow of your stick, and the ground is filled with corpses and body parts. An hour later, you look around and there is no opponent left. The dog-beating stick in your hand shimmers with light, which is blood light and divine light. 42 years old, you are the supreme king of martial arts. The world is just the beginning, your eyes are looking at the court. You started taking action, and the people responded and joined your team. The court was strangely calm. You have received information and unexpectedly learned that the largest human trafficker in the world is actually a high-ranking official of the imperial court. You couldn't stand this senior official living for one more day, so you sneaked into the capital. Your arrival caught that senior official off guard. You punched his head off. When you were about to continue killing people, a child stopped you. He is scolding you not to kill innocent people indiscriminately. He is the son of a high-ranking official. Is he innocent? You raised the dog-beating stick, but still let him go. His eyes look like yours, making you hesitate. You were discovered by the imperial court and an army was sent to encircle and suppress you. You press the list and go on a killing spree. The blood in the capital has become a river, and the rich smell of blood lingers for a long time. You heard the screams of the senior officials. You heard the cheers of the people. Your smile becomes more and more sickly. Your dog-beating stick is pointed directly at the palace. The greatest evil in the world is right there. Just kill them all. Apocalypse year, 96 years. Someone falls from the sky and lands in front of you. Everyone stared blankly. Is this an immortal? The immortal looks at you and asks, are you a magic beggar? You nod. You are the supreme king of martial arts, but you still want to be the supreme emperor. The immortal asked next. I want peace in the world, I just want justice. Understood. The immortal nodded. He stretched out his hand, a ray of light flashed, and your head fell off. You are dead. Simulation ends. Your mad dog stick technique breaks through the limits and is called the crazy demon stick technique. This is a technique that transcends the mortal world. It is not destined to be buried. Your blue talent entry will starve and be promoted to a gold talent entry that will not stop dying. Your life of 49 years has been magnificent and hearty. You were born as a beggar, first became an elder, then became a gang leader, and finally became a martial arts supreme. Your ambition does not stop there. You want to be the supreme one in the world and want justice. You failed. You have experienced too much killing in your life, and you have too much blood on your hands. Some people say you are a devil, some people say you are a god. Your deeds are spread among the people. Your portrait is being worshipped by the people. Evaluation. Good and evil are not factors you consider. You only care about justice. Your life has left a lasting mark on the current world and endless legends for future generations. It's a pity that the road to the mortal world will eventually end, and if you don't enter the immortal gate, it will be empty. Therefore, your evaluation is A+. In this simulation, new functions appear, making it immersive. Immersive. You can enter the simulation and control the direction of the plot. You need to consume simulation coins to be immersed in the scene. The simulation mall is opened. Settlement reward. Congratulations on getting the Beggar's Clan's most precious dog-beating stick. Obtain simulated coins, 1,000. A long string of words kept flashing in front of Henry Jong's eyes. However, he sat there, touching his neck. Henry Jong is still recalling the scene of death in the simulation. He was already invincible, but in front of the man who could fly, he didn't even know how to die. Is that a fairy? It's really ridiculous, the suffering in the world. Even if the immortals are superior, no one is allowed to resist. Henry Jong suppressed the anger in his heart and comforted himself that it was just a simulation, don't take it too seriously. The reward this time is a dog-beating stick. As soon as Henry Jong thought, the dog-beating stick appeared in his hand. The dog-beating stick is 1 foot and 2 inches long and is made entirely of jasper. It is very light, yet as hard as iron. There are 9 dragon patterns tattooed on it, which is gentle and elegant, revealing a domineering feeling. Moreover, the stick is filled with blood and golden light, which is very mysterious. Holding it, Henry Jong felt like he was in harmony with each other, as if he was an old friend he hadn't seen for many years. He even felt that the dog-beating stick seemed to be in a happy mood. Is it an illusion? Dog-beating stick. Originally a mortal magic weapon, but one mind with the devil beggar made it possible to become a spiritual weapon. Spirit weapon. Is it a weapon used by immortals? Henry Jong couldn't put it down and played with the dog-beating stick. Holding it, he felt a refreshing feeling in his mind. As soon as Henry Jong thought, the dog-beating stick disappeared from his hand. It is produced by the system and can be directly inserted into the system. It's a pity that Henry Jong's memory of the skills in reincarnation is very blurry. Otherwise, in reality, you can try to practice those martial arts. But soon, Henry Jong discovered that there was no chance. Because all the martial arts that the demon beggar had practiced appeared in the mall. Crazy dog stick method, 800 simulation coins. Subduing dragon heart technique, 1007 simulation coins. Crazy magic stick method, 10,000 simulation coins. Not only martial arts, but also entries appear in the mall. Hungry, 5,600 simulation coins. Till death, 260,000 simulation coins. What? Henry Jong was dumbfounded, this golden entry was too expensive. His A+ evaluation only gave him 1,000 simulation coins. 260,000, how long will it take to save it? I don't want to think about it anymore, go to sleep. I have to go to work tomorrow. The simulation experience had a great impact on Henry Jong's heart and made him very tired. When Henry Jong woke up, it was already 8:30 in the morning. It's over. Cold sweat appeared on Henry Jong's face, and his heart felt cold. He is a programmer and has to clock in at 8:40 every day. Now even if I go by car, I can't catch up. Henry Jong put on his clothes in a panic and rushed out of the room. Originally, he rode a shared bicycle every day. Today he reluctantly took a taxi and arrived at the company in more than 20 minutes. Henry Jong was already prepared to be scolded by his supervisor and even have his salary deducted. However, as soon as he arrived downstairs of the company, he saw several police cars parked here. Something happened. Henry Jong entered the building, reached the 13th floor, and found that the supervisor was not there. He sat down at his desk and breathed out a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, something happened to the company and he took advantage of it. Brother Wong, what happened? Henry Jong poked the arm of his colleague next to him. Brother Wong is in his 30s, but his hair is very sparse and his eyes are very dark. He turned around and sighed. A colleague from another project team, that Xiao Xie, died suddenly. Sudden death. Did you die in the company? Henry Zhang was shocked. Yes. Brother Wang looked angrily and lowered his voice. There was a problem with his group project last week, but the boss blamed all the fault on Xiao Xie. Xiao Xie worked overtime at the company for 2 days and nights on the weekend, revising the project. This morning, I found him dead in front of his desk. I heard that he died on Sunday. He was not found until a day later. It was really tragic. I see. Zhang Zan nodded numbly. Xiao Xie's experience is not unique. Let me ask, who in their company has not been forced to work overtime all night long? It's okay if you don't work overtime, the industry is very demanding now. If you don't work overtime, there will be more people taking over for you. It's just that Xiao Xie was unlucky and died suddenly. Xiao Xie died by himself, no one harmed him. So, no one is responsible for this. The company was benevolent and gave a lot of compensation to Xiao Xie's family. Xiao Xie's family must be very grateful. In the afternoon, the company was as usual. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the manager in charge, Li Bao, walked in with a full belly. He looked at everyone with a smile and said, "It's been a hard day for everyone. Finish the project at hand, and then everyone can go home and rest." What? Many people raised their heads and looked directly at Li Bao. Today's project is a big one. They worked for a whole day and only completed 60% of it. If you want to finish it all, until what time do you have to work overtime? What's more, an employee's sudden death just happened. Don't you have any sense of awe? Li Bao seemed unable to see the resentment in people's eyes and continued with a smile. Don't worry, everyone, today's project is so important, I will always be with you. I've also taken care of tonight's supper. You don't have to be polite. He patted his chest and looked proud. Everyone is exhausted. Brother Li, you are so good to us. Working overtime is what we should do, but you still buy food for us out of your own pocket. An employee named Zhao Sheng looked at Li Bao with admiration and emotion. Faintly, everyone can still see the tears twinkling in the corners of Zhao Sheng's eyes. Quote. Everyone was speechless. You must have done too much. Li Bao nodded with satisfaction to Zhao Sheng, then turned and left. Oh, right. Li Bao suddenly turned around, looked at Henry Zhang, and asked with a smile. Zan Zhang, are you late today? Yes, I'm 10 minutes late. Henry Zhang's face darkened and he stood up. Well, that's a pity. Li Bao sighed. I don't want to deduct money from you, but the company's regulations are like this, and there's nothing I can do about it. This month, your perfect attendance is gone. Do you have any objection? No. Henry Zhang sat down calmly. He lowered his head and suddenly thought of the magic beggar. What would he do if it were him? But that's just a simulation, this is reality. Manager Ma hummed a tune and walked out. Fat pig. Whether or not perfect attendance will be deducted is obviously a matter of his words. After Manager Ma left, Lao Wang cursed in a low voice, you know how to use the company system to suppress us. Zan Zhang, someone snitched on you. Otherwise, Fat Pig wouldn't even know you were late. Lao Wang said angrily. I know. Henry Zhang raised his head and looked at Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng was secretly observing Henry Zhang, and when he touched Henry Zhang's eyes, he was startled. Henry Zhang smiled and waved to Zhao Sheng cordially. Zhao Sheng entered the company at the same time as him. Zhao Sheng's business ability is not good, but his ability to flatter others is top-notch. Therefore, many employees do not like to see Zhao Sheng, but have a good relationship with Henry Zhang. Therefore, Zhao Sheng hated Zhang Zan. This is not the first time that Henry Zhang wears small shoes. It is indeed this villain. Lao Wang clenched his fists and said angrily, I really want to beat him up. We are all colleagues and we must live in harmony. Henry Zhang responded with a smile. Oh, Henry Zhang, you are too honest. It is easy to suffer such a loss. Lao Wang sighed. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the company is brightly lit. Manager Ma walked towards the elevator with his belly held out. His face was gloomy and very unhappy. Maid, Xiao Xie deserves to die, what does that have to do with me? I asked him to work overtime, but I didn't let him die. Manager Ma was cursing. He had been reprimanded all day today. He also spent a lot of money to reduce the impact of this incident. Maid, just die, you let Lousy waste so much money. Manager Ma walked into the elevator with a lustful smile on his face. Go out and have some fun today to get rid of your anger. He pressed the first floor and began to miss the girls in the nightclub. However, why didn't he feel hot, but rather cold? As the air conditioner turned on too much. Manager Ma muttered in his heart. Manager Ma, are you cold? Can I give you my clothes? Behind him, a voice sounded. Xiao Xie, that's not necessary. Your clothes are too cheap and not worthy of my status. Manager Ma sneered and responded lightly. Wait, Xiao Xie. Manager Ma frowned and turned around mechanically. Xiao Xie was wearing a suit and looked to be in his 20s. His face was pale and his eyes were looking straight at Manager Ma. Seeing Manager Ma turn around, he smiled flatteringly. Just like his usual appearance. However, his mouth was very cracked, all the way to his ears. While Henry Zhang was working wholeheartedly, the chandelier suddenly flickered. Henry Zhang stared at the computer, as if he didn't notice it. Shadows crawled in like spider webs and fell on everyone. Something's wrong. Henry Zhang shuddered violently, and he felt the endless coldness wrapped around him, making it impossible for him to breathe. Almost subconsciously, he summoned the dog beating stick from the system backpack. PFF'd. The golden light of the dog beating stick flashed, and a wisp of smoke dissipated from Henry Zhang's body. What happened? Henry Zhang breathed heavily, with fear in his eyes. He seemed to be possessed just now. If he hadn't felt the emotion of dog beating stick deep in his heart, he might not have been able to wake up. Henry Zhang looked around, his scalp felt numb. All the employees were staring at the computer, their hands almost turned into afterimages, typing desperately on the keyboard. However, what was typed out on the computer was all a bunch of gibberish. What's even weirder is that they are still mumbling words. Work overtime, work overtime. Your sister works overtime. Henry Zhang held the dog beating stick so hard that the veins on the back of his hand popped out. Only it can give him a sense of security. Leave first. Just as Henry Zhang moved, the sound of typing on the keyboard in the room suddenly stopped. Henry Zhang was startled and looked up. All the employees turned their heads and looked at Henry Zhang blankly. Why don't you work overtime? Lao Wang beside him asked grimly. Work overtime, work overtime. They all stood up and gathered around Henry Zhang. Henry Zhang's scalp was numb, he had never experienced such a terrifying scene. Without hesitation, he ran outside. However, there were more than a dozen people in the office, and he was stopped before he could take a few steps. We just have to fight. Henry Zhang gritted his teeth, swung the dog beating stick, and hit the arm that Lao Wang grabbed hard. Along with the sound of fractures, Henry Zhang seemed to see a ray of yin qi dissipate from Lao Wang's body. Lao Wang stiffened and fell to the ground. Henry Zhang was shocked. This dog beating stick seemed to be able to disperse dirty things. Henry Zhang kept on beating several employees in succession. He found that as long as they were hit with a dog beating stick, no matter where they hit them or how hard they hit them, the yin qi would emit from their bodies and dissipate. If that's the case, then I'll save your lives. Henry Zhang felt relieved and took the initiative to greet everyone and walked over. Their speed is slow, and if they overcome their fear, they will not pose any threat to Henry Zhang. After a while, everyone was knocked unconscious. Apart from Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng looked gloomy and walked towards Henry Zhang shouting, work overtime. In the company, you are the only one who likes to work overtime. I'd better not stop you. With a calm look on his face, Henry Zhang avoided Zhao Sheng and ran out. Zhao Sheng saw Zhang Zan going out and did not pursue him. He was in a daze for a moment, then sat back in front of the computer and continued typing on the keyboard. Henry Zhang was relieved and looked around. Hiss. There was not a trace of light in the corridor. Endless darkness erodes everything around it. Forget it, I'd better go back. Henry Zhang twitched the corner of his mouth. The outside was much scarier than the inside. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, Henry Zhang heard a violent collision not far away. The direction of the sound sounded like Li Bao's personal office. Henry Zhang was slightly curious, gripped the dog beating stick tightly, and walked over carefully. The lights in Li Bao's office had long been turned off, but the computer was still on. When Henry Zhang came closer, he stole through the window and saw Li Bao by the light of the computer. Li Bao sat at the computer desk, his face covered in blood, and looked at Henry Zhang. Li Bao saw Henry Zhang, his fearful eyes lit up, and he blinked desperately at Henry Zhang. Henry Zhang still didn't understand what was going on. Then he saw the expression on Li Bao's face suddenly change to extremely frightened, and then his head hit the computer table hard. Boom! There was more blood on Li Bao's face, and his eyes became much more distracted. But those distracted eyes were still looking at Henry Zhang pleadingly. Henry Zhang was silent for a moment and whispered, "I understand, manager." Li Bao's eyes lit up. "You are telling me to run away quickly. Don't die in vain." Henry Zhang nodded vigorously. "I will not let you down." After Henry Zhang finished speaking, he turned around and left without hesitation. Grass. Li Bao wailed in his heart and hit his head heavily on the computer table again. Why do employees type with their hands, but Li Bao types on the keyboard with his head? Henry Zhang thought about the difference while walking. Now, the mobile phone has no signal and cannot contact the outside world. Henry Zhang glanced at the elevator and felt endless resentment emanating from it. The feeling of terror is 10 times greater than other places. Better take the stairs. Henry Zhang didn't know what would happen if he continued to stay here. He must not sit still and wait for death. The corridor was pitch black, without any light. Henry Zhang glanced at the dark corridor, thinking that there was nothing wrong with just sitting there and waiting for death. Buzz. The dog beating stick vibrated slightly and lit up with a green light. Hey, you can also use it as a lighting lamp. Henry Zhang shook the dog beating stick, and the green light reflected on his face, which made him feel even more terrifying. Henry Zhang walked carefully downstairs. He arrived at the 12th floor and looked at the office on this floor. Every office is filled with the sound of typing on keyboards. No, in those independent offices, it seemed like a crashing sound. On the 11th floor, Henry Zhang smelled a pungent smell of blood. He carefully walked out of the aisle, and the scene in front of him made his pupils shrink violently. First there was the nearest elevator. It was open and blood was flowing out like a stream. In the elevator, a corpse collapsed there miserably. His stomach seemed to have been hollowed out, and his face was twisted and terrifying. Is it Manager Ma? There are not many such fat guys in the whole company. What's more, he was the only one on the 11th floor. Henry Zhang just glanced at this disgusting scene and ignored it. It's not that the impact is not enough, but that a greater impact is yet to come. Not far away, a figure shrouded in darkness, with ink like yin qi constantly pouring out of his body, rushed forward fiercely. Opposite the figure is a young man. He actually held a flame shield in his hand to block the impact of yin qi. However, his situation is not good. There was blood flowing out of the facial features, which was very terrifying. Stranger. When the young man saw Henry Zhang, his eyes suddenly lit up. What superpower? Henry Zhang shook his head. I'm not. Are you here to die? Leave quickly. The young man spit out a mouthful of blood and said with difficulty. Okay, let's go now. Henry Zhang turned around and left. Youth. However, not only did he notice Henry Zhang, the figure in yin qi also noticed Henry Zhang. His body did not move, his head rotated 180 degrees, looking straight at Henry Zhang. Don't leave, work overtime. The torrent of yin qi separated and surged towards Henry Zhang. Henry Zhang was surprised. Is it Xiao Xie? No, it's not Xiao Xie. At first glance, the face was that of Xiao Xie, but it soon became blurred and changed to another face. His face kept flashing by, and he changed several faces in a row. Well, is it Lao Gao? Henry Zhang didn't recognize the other faces. However, he had seen one of the faces before. That person's name is Lao Gao. A year ago, not long after he joined the company, an employee died suddenly. That employee is Lao Gao. Hiss, these faces aren't all employees of the company who died suddenly, are they? Henry Zhang gasped. Work overtime. Work overtime. Dozens of voices gathered together and made a rumbling sound. At the same time, the yin energy that came out hit Henry Zhang's head mercilessly. PFF'd, it's over. The young man's eyes showed despair. Another person was about to die in front of him. I'm going to go back and work overtime, why not? Don't come over. Henry Zhang yelled while holding the dog beating stick and hitting the yin current fiercely. It's useless. The young man's heart is filled with despair. No matter how strong you are, physical attacks cannot touch it. What's more, the man in front of me doesn't look very strong. Laugh. Who knows, it's like fire meeting water. During the collision, a huge sound of steam emission was made. The torrent of yin qi evaporated visibly to the naked eye. Finally, in the young man's shocked eyes, it turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared. How is this possible? Who are you? The young man looked at Henry Jong in shock. Henry Jong wiped away his sweat. I'm scared to death, I'm scared to death. Youth, since you won't let me leave, let's talk. Henry Jong grinned and walked over with the dog beating stick on his shoulder. Seeing Henry Jong coming over, Xiao Xie couldn't help but take a step back. The white eyeballs seemed to have emotions, as if to say, don't come over. Are you afraid of people these days? The young man smiled bitterly. He was so cruel and cruel just now, why is he so cowardly now? Xiao Xie roared, and the yin qi changed its direction, like a big curtain, and shot towards Henry Jong. The young man who had reached his limit long ago was half kneeling on the ground. He had lost his fighting ability. Henry Jong saw the yin qi rushing in instantly, and the blood in his body seemed to be frozen by the yin qi. He forced himself to hold up the dog beating stick and collided with the yin qi. Qi qi qi. The erupting steam surged in all directions, and the yin qi continued to evaporate. When Xiao Xie saw that the yin qi was blocked, he let out another low growl that didn't sound like a human voice. All the yin energy in the whole building rushed in like birds returning to their nests and entered its body. The face switching speed of Ju is even faster, and a face cannot even be maintained for a second. So much so that its face seemed to be mosaic, making it impossible to see clearly. Its body continued to expand under the impact of yin qi. Roar. With a low roar, its figure disappeared and reappeared in front of Henry Jong. The huge claws, which were no longer like human hands, slapped Henry Jong's head hard. Henry Jong's pupils shrank, almost instinctively, and he split Washin with one force and hit his claws. Boom! A violent roar sounded. Henry Jong's body trembled and he kept retreating. The light of the dog beating stick in his hand was suppressed. Without the protection of the dog beating stick, Henry Jong felt that his body was extremely cold and his brain could not function. The giant claw approached Henry Jong's head little by little. It's only a few centimeters away from crushing his head. Dog beating stick, dog beating stick. We have been fighting together for decades. Now, don't let your guard down. Henry Jong yelled in his heart, and his eyes became more and more ferocious. That ferocious and crazy look, vaguely like a demon beggar, came to the world. This madness stimulated the dog beating stick. It fell silent for a moment, then instantly burst into destructive light. This time, it's not green light, but blood-colored light. Only its true owner can unlock its greatest power. The paw that kept approaching Henry Jong suddenly stopped. Henry Jong's ferocious face raised, and a crazy smile bloomed at the corner of his mouth. Now, it's my turn. Open it for me. Henry Jong let out a low roar, and blood light erupted. In an instant, the entire corridor was filled with blood-colored light. The young man who had been anxiously watching the battle froze. A domineering and crazy figure appeared in front of his eyes. That figure, holding a bloody stick, was killing crazily. The terrifying murderous intention and madness impacted the young man's spirit. His eyes rolled up and he fainted. Bloody light burst out, like a huge mouth of the abyss, swallowing up the yin qi in one mouthful. The strange figure flew out involuntarily. As it flew back, the yin qi on its body made a series of explosion sounds. It seemed that the blood light was still destroying its body. Xiao Xie, I don't want to work overtime either. But now I don't want to die even more. So, just die in peace. Henry Jong did not hesitate, followed quickly, and hit it on the head with a stick. Roar. Under this violent blow, the yin qi dissipated from Gui's body became faster. Henry Jong kept hitting Gui's body with one stick after another. When the young man woke up, he saw Zhang Zan chasing and beating him like a dog. Its figure seemed to be scattered. How can this be? The young man looked shocked. Who is this young man and why is he so strong? As Henry Jong's last stick fell, Gui's figure shook violently, and then more than a dozen figures split from it. This change made Henry Jong slightly shocked and a little confused. When he hit Xiao Xie with the stick just now, the bloody light on the dog beating stick subsided, and instead a golden light emerged. The dog beating stick with golden light hit Gui's body, and it actually gave up resistance. Under the last blow, Gui was torn apart and turned into more than a dozen phantoms. Henry Jong took a closer look and saw that these more than 10 figures were all employees who died suddenly. They stood there blankly, as if they didn't know why they were here. How can this be? The young man's eyes were wide open, as if he had seen the most incredible thing in the world. Dude, what's going on? Henry Jong asked curiously. Hello, hello. The young man came over with his hands on his chest and a flattering smile on his face. Just call me Xiaoqi, I'm a fire element user. Fire superpower. Henry Jong looked confused. Why does this master look like he doesn't understand anything? Xiaoqi was a little confused. Don't talk about it yet, can you tell me what's going on? Henry Jong asked. Xiaoqi smiled bitterly and sighed. When I passed by here during the day, I felt resentment. Then I investigated and found that there were employees who died suddenly here. This level of resentment will most likely turn this employee into a traitor. So, I didn't report it to my superiors. I just dealt with it privately. Who knows? Xiaoqi grimaced. The employees who died suddenly here over the years still have their grievances and formed this kind of compound conspiracy. With my ability, I am no match at all. If you hadn't saved me, brother, my life would be worthless. It would be a serious sin to harm the people in this building. It's fine. Henry Jong patted Xiaoqi's shoulder and comforted. If you die, just be more careful in your next life. Forehead. Xiaoqi twitched the corner of her mouth. You haven't said yet what the situation is. Henry Jong pointed to the opposite side. The souls of ordinary people after death will dissipate on their own after a period of time. However, once it becomes a trap, the process is irreversible. They will only stop killing if they are eliminated. Quote. Xiaoqi looked at the dozen shadows in disbelief. Brother, how did you do it? This trick actually reversed itself and turned back into a soul. How did you transcend it? If there are 6 paths reincarnation, they have the possibility of reincarnation. Is that so? Henry Jong asked strangely, can we ordinary people also see human souls? How come I haven't seen it before? Brother, you are really joking. When did a master like you become an ordinary person? Xiaoqi cursed in her heart, what is wrong with this master, why is he pretending to be humble in front of me? Henry Jong smiled and said nothing. His family knows his own affairs, he is indeed an ordinary person. Whether I can see souls or turn ghosts into souls, it's all because of the dog beating stick. Henry Jong was silent. At this time, the souls of Xiaoqi and others who died suddenly seemed to remember what happened. Thank you. With grateful expressions in their eyes, they knelt down in front of Henry Jong and kowtowed 3 times. When they straightened up, the blurry figures slowly dispersed. They were just honest and diligent workers, but they died suddenly because of the company's oppression. Xiaoqi said angrily, those leaders are still alive and well. Ahem, I'm afraid they won't be able to moisturize them anymore. If these leaders can still live well despite banging on the keyboard so hard, then he would like to call their heads the hardest. In a bright and comfortable room, Henry Jong was eating breakfast by himself. There are 8 delicacies on the dining table in front of you. The bright color and tempting taste made Henry Jong move his index fingers and start eating happily. Henry Jong was thinking about what happened last night while eating. After eliminating the ghost yesterday, within a short time, the official organization called Xiaoqi arrived at the company building. Then, he was brought here. In the morning, a staff member gave him a follow-up report from last night. That night, a total of 7 people, including Li Bao, died. All are leaders above manager level. When their bodies were found, they were so miserable that their heads were so shredded that they were unrecognizable. As for the employees, most of them are fine, but will suffer serious illness. But there are 2 surprises. One is Lao Wang, whose arm was broken by something unknown. When Henry Jong saw this, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. It's really abominable. Lao Wang is so miserable, it must be the one who did it. The other one is Zhao Sheng. At that time, the yin energy of other employees was all on Zhao Sheng for some reason. Except for Lao Wang, who was unlucky and broke his arm, everyone else was fine. Zhao Sheng was miserable, he couldn't bear so much yin qi on him. The yin energy damaged Zhao Sheng's brain, and his IQ was only at the level of a child. As for whether it can be restored in the future, I don't know. This is the disadvantage of working overtime. Your IQ will become lower. Henry Zhang was amazed. Mr. Henry Zhang, is breakfast still to your liking? As soon as Henry Zhang finished eating, a woman walked in. She is very tall, has a heroic face, has a ponytail, and looks heroic. If it was in ancient times, she must be Mu Guiying. Mr. Zhang, my name is Long Xiaoyun. The woman extended her hand and introduced herself. Henry Zhang shook hands with her and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Long Xiaoyun's little hands are not as soft as those of ordinary women. There are also thick calluses on the palms. It seems that this is a strange woman who doesn't like red makeup and loves armed weapons. Sister Long, just call me Henry Zhang, no need to be so polite. Henry Zhang held Long Xiaoyun's hand and spoke with a smile. Okay, then I'm welcome. Long Xiaoyun was also informal, so he said generously. Zhan Zhang, I would like to invite you to join our Linjiang City Superpower Bureau. Sister Long, what is a superpower bureau? Henry Zhang blinked. It seems that you really don't know anything. Long Xiaoyun also looked strange and joked. You killed such a powerful Gui. Xiaoqi admires you to death. I thought you were an old superpower. Haha, what an old superpower. It's ridiculous. Henry Zhang waved his hand modestly, I'm just born with divine power. Long Xiaoyun organized the language. Superpowers have appeared since ancient times. According to ancient records, the superpowers at that time were more powerful and more diverse. Long Xiaoyun looked regretful. Unfortunately, as time goes by, the proportion of superpowers is getting lower and lower, and they are becoming weaker and weaker. Experts on supernatural powers have studied it for thousands of years, but they can't find the reason for it. Henry Zhang nodded. What about the superpower game? The Superpower Bureau is naturally the official organization for superpowers. Long Xiaoyun explained softly. In ancient times, every dynasty had official supernatural organizations, but they were not well known. The purpose of its existence is to deal with evil spirits. Now, we call evil spirits guile. Was there magic in ancient times? Henry Zhang asked in surprise. Yes, whenever people are suffering and resentful, evil spirits will appear in large numbers. Long Xiaoyun said calmly. So, the last years of the dynasty are also the time when evil spirits are most abundant. Don't listen, the fool is chanting sutras. Henry Zhang covered his ears and loudly accused, what are you insinuating? I am a common man and I don't know anything. Quote. Long Xiaoyun holds his forehead, are you so funny? I'm talking about ancient times. If you make random associations, do you still blame me? Sister Long, I'm just a nobody. I'm afraid I can't join you. Henry Zhang clasped his fingers and said with a sad face, the house, the car, the wife. It's like a mountain pressing on me. How can I have any spare strength? As long as you are willing to join the Superpower Bureau, you will receive a monthly salary of 50,000 yuan. Long Xiaoyun said lightly. Henry Zhang was greatly moved, but for safety reasons, he asked. Sister Long, was that weirdo strong last night? He is just an ordinary person. He has no money to earn but no life to spend. Not too strong. Long Xiaoyun shook his head, I won't lie to you either. Yesterday's ghost was caused by resentment after death. It was more like a ghost in a story. There is also a kind of trick that is more like a product of rules, and no one knows how they are formed. This kind of creature cannot be killed. We can only understand its killing patterns, avoid its pursuit, and find ways to seal or expel it. Quote. Can't be killed. Henry Zhang was puzzled. Can't you even use superpowers? No, in the face of this kind of trick, there is no difference between superpowers and ordinary people. Long Xiaoyun said, for example, there is a kind of weirdness called mountain weirdness. It is a kind of weirdness that arises from human beings' awe, surrender, fear, worship and other thoughts towards the mountains. As long as the mountain still exists in this world, it will be immortal. This monster has existed for thousands of years. Henry Zhang took a step back and said with a dry smile. Actually, I like my job very much. Moreover, I can work overtime. I like working overtime the most. It doesn't matter if I have less money, and I don't like money. Really, I originally prepared a car and a house for you. I even want to introduce you to your girlfriend. Long Xiaoyun looked regretful. It seems that it is no longer needed. Sister Long, I have had a dream since I was a child. Henry Zhang took a step forward, held Long Xiaoyun's hand tightly, with a sincere look on his face. I am determined to serve the people in the country. Now that I have this opportunity, I ask the organization to give me this opportunity. This guy's character. Long Xiaoyun was speechless and could only say, have you considered? I have made up my mind. Sister Long, you don't need to say more. Henry Zhang looked determined and extremely solemn. With such a sincere look, Long Xiaoyun almost believed it. In that case, then you can join my combat team. I will be your captain from now on. Long Xiaoyun nodded. Okay, dragons. Henry Zhang saluted, then rubbed his hands and looked at Long Xiaoyun expectantly. Sister Long, then my house and car. It's so easy to lose control of the fox's tail. Long Xiaoyun looked at Henry Zhang angrily. However, Long Xiaoyun was not disgusted with Henry Zhang's behavior. Most people with superpowers are arrogant, but Henry Zhang's little problem of greed for money is the easiest to solve. The house is in the center of the city. You can go see it when you have time. There is also a BMW X7 outside, which is yours too. Long Xiaoyun's voice was dull, but Henry Zhang saw the light from her. Thank you, Sister Long. Henry Zhang had struggled all his life to afford the luxury cars and mansions, but he got them just like that. Since you are willing to join in, then come with me to report. Long Xiaoyun said softly, by the way, let's meet your future partner. Wait a minute, Sister Long. Henry Zhang quickly stopped Long Xiaoyun. Long Xiaoyun's expression changed. This guy wouldn't have changed his mind again. Henry Zhang looked at Long Xiaoyun very seriously and said, Sister Long, have you forgotten something? What? Long Xiaoyun frowned and his expression became serious. Is there something else that she hasn't noticed? That is. Henry Zhang's voice paused, and under Long Xiaoyun's nervous eyes, he said what he said. Where is the girlfriend you promised to introduce me to? Quote. Long Xiaoyun gritted his teeth, and his heroic little face was stained with a blush, purely because of Zhang Zan's anger. Zhang, I don't have a boyfriend yet, why don't you consider me? Well, Henry Zhang touched his chin and looked Long Xiaoyun up and down. It has to be said that Long Xiaoyun is tall and has a lot of fat where he should be fat. She is also very beautiful, but she exudes an edge, and people pay more attention to her temperament. When Henry Zhang looked at Long Xiaoyun's face became darker and darker. There was a wave of fluctuations on her body, and in Henry Zhang's shocked eyes, a tang dao condensed in her hand. The light on the blade made Henry Zhang feel cold. How are you thinking about it? I have a lot of flower jobs. Do you want to give it a try? Long Xiaoyun held tang dao and asked with a smile. Good. Henry Zhang subconsciously wanted to nod. Long Xiaoyun narrowed his eyes, with a dangerous light shining in his eyes. Ahem, okay. Let Sister Long know, I want to tell you that I have no thoughts of finding a girlfriend for the time being. So, you don't have to worry about me. Henry Zhang quickly said with a smile. Humph, you didn't want it yourself. Long Xiaoyun flicked his hand, and the tang dao turned into a point of light and dissipated. HMPH, when I succeed in my practice, I will let you taste the power of my dog-beating stick. Henry Zhang thought angrily in his heart. He is just an ordinary person. The dog-beating stick is for beating dogs. It shouldn't be too good to beat a female dragon, right? Sister Long, is this your superpower? Henry Zhang wiped away his sweat and looked curiously at the disappearing light spot. Yes, my power is to summon different types of cold weapons. Long Xiaoyun said generously, at the same time, I will also become a combat expert with this kind of cold weapon. Is that so? It's really a magical power. Henry Zhang looked amazed. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Clean up and come with me to report. Long Xiaoyun went out directly, with a smile on his lips. It was only the first time that she and Henry Zhang met, but there was no feeling of unfamiliarity at all. Instead, the two seemed to have been friends for many years. Is it you who is greedy for money and lustful today? Or is it you who scared Xiaoqi to death last night? Who is the real you? Long Xiaoyun whispered to himself, a hint of excitement flashed in his heroic eyes. She hadn't been so interested in someone for a long time. The Superpower Bureau is not located in the most prosperous place in the city center, but is located in a dilapidated building in the old city. The old town here is the largest gathering place for poor people in Linjiang City, and most of them are the most ignored migrant workers in the city. What, are you disappointed? Long Xiaoyun asked lightly. Henry Zhang smiled and shook his head. Not really, I'm just a little curious. A city that looks bright and beautiful on the outside always has corners that you don't notice. Long Xiaoyun had a meaningful look on his face. This kind of place is where the most ghosts appear. After Henry Zhang entered the office, he looked at the three people in the room with a look of shock. Are these the only people in our group? Long Xiaoyun shook his head. The two of them are on a mission. Xiao Qi is in solitary confinement. Henry Zhang twitched the corner of his mouth. How many combat groups do we have in Linjiang? 5. Long Xiaoyun looked indifferent. Does a big city like Nuo only have so many people with superpowers? Henry Zhang swallowed. Is it too late for him to quit now? Are you the master who saved Xiao Qi last night? A very handsome young man came over with a hearty smile. You are too polite, you don't need to call me an expert. Henry Zhang waved his hands quickly, then paused and said. From now on, just call me senior. Ah, the young man was dumbfounded. Haha, just kidding. Henry Zhang smiled and said. Just call me Henry Zhang. Ahem, I'm Lin Fang. A person with wind powers. Lin Fang said with a dry smile. Han Tiansong, a telepathic person. Another man with a slightly cold expression stretched out his hand, and a glass of water not far away fell on his hand. Hello, hello. Henry Zhang waved to greet them, but kept looking at the third person. It's not his fault, it's because that woman is so beautiful. She is about 25 years old, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, and her youthful and energetic face is filled with intellectual light. The eyes under the lenses are sparkling and lively, seeming to be full of desire to explore the world. She looked at Henry Zhang and stretched out her jade finger, and then fresh green buds grew on it. She smiled slightly. Shen Zi, a wood-type superpower. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Henry Zhang looked serious and said solemnly, Zhan Zhang, the big stick superpower. What, not only the three superpowers, but also Long Xiaoyun almost stopped. Speak to me properly. Long Xiao Cloud Shinobi couldn't hold it any longer and pinched Henry Zhang's ears directly, gritted his teeth and asked, what kind of superpower are you? Sister Long, please spare my life. Henry Zhang quickly raised his hands in surrender. Actually, I don't know what kind of superpower I am. Forget it, it doesn't matter if you don't want to say it. Long Xiaoyun shook his head. Henry Zhang looked helpless. It wasn't that he didn't want to say it. He is not a superpower at all, what should he say? However, he had a simulator, so he wasn't too panicked. After a few people chatted for a while, they all went about their own business. Only Zhang Zhan just arrived and was a little idle. In the office, it is not easy to simulate. He picked up a book out of boredom and started reading. Why, are you interested in prehistoric civilization? Shen Zi walked over. Forehead. Only then did Henry Zhang realize that what he was holding was a book on the study of prehistoric civilization. Did prehistoric civilization really exist? Henry Zhang looked curious. Of course. Prehistoric civilization must have existed, perhaps a higher-level civilization. Shen Zi pushed up his glasses, a bright light flashed in his peaceful eyes. Just like the classic of mountains and seas, is it really just a made-up map? Maybe the world it describes actually exists. Sister Shen is very knowledgeable about this. Henry Zhang asked with a smile. Well, I'm a graduate student in the Department of Archaeology. If I hadn't accidentally awakened my powers, I would have been studying the cultural relics of prehistoric civilization by now. Shen Zi nodded, looking a little regretful. She doesn't like fighting, but has a strong interest in ancient times, especially prehistoric civilization. However, after she knew about the existence of Wei, she came to the Superpower Bureau without any hesitation. Sister Shen, are there any cultural relics from prehistoric civilization that have been handed down to this day? Of course there is, look. Shen Zi approached Henry Zhang, and gently turned the books in Henry Zhang's hand with her jade fingers. Look, this bronze tripod, steel knife, crystal ball, and this bronze statue. Shen Zi pointed to some of the illustrations above, her eyes slightly excited. They are all unearthed from prehistoric ruins. I really want to see them with my own eyes. Shen Zi exuded a fragrance of nature, which made Henry Zhang unable to concentrate and almost didn't hear what she was saying. When she pointed to an illustration of a bronze statue, Henry Zhang showed a puzzled expression. Why does the head of this bronze statue look familiar? It's a pity that it was too vague, so he didn't dare to confirm it. Henry Zhang asked quickly, Sister Shen, what is the origin of this bronze statue? This should be a saint at that time. The people made statues of him and worshipped them every day. Shen Zi said softly, it seems that this saint was born as a beggar. The specific deeds of the saint cannot be studied. Henry Zhang didn't hear what Shen Zi said later. He was already in great shock. Originally, he felt that this bronze statue was 70% similar to the demon beggar. Now Shen Zi's words almost made him think that this bronze statue was the magic beggar. Is it a coincidence? Henry Zhang swallowed. Otherwise, then the life he simulated was a prehistoric civilization. If there was a prehistoric civilization, what was the reason for its destruction? Henry Zhang raised this question. War, plague, who knows? How can I know something that experts have studied for dozens or hundreds of years and still don't understand? Shen Zi shook his head. After get off work, Henry Zhang returned to the room and couldn't wait to start the simulation. This time, in addition to getting as high a rating as possible, he had another goal. That is to see what the world he travels through each time is like. If someone has to stand up, why can't that person be me? After the opening remarks, the simulation began. The entry is being generated. Congratulations on getting the temporary golden entry and unlimited evolution. Infinite evolution. You have unlimited growth attributes. As long as you persevere, you will gain something. Golden entry, infinite evolution. Henry Zhang was surprised. This system was becoming more and more considerate, and he gave golden entries at the beginning. Then he didn't kill everyone. Quack, the simulated world is trembling under my feet. Chinese calendar, year 2876. You were born into a top aristocratic family, and you are a young master who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Your father is the first-rank finance minister of the current dynasty, Chu Yiguang. Okay, system, I'm in love with you now. Henry Zhang's body trembled and tears filled his eyes. After so many times, is he finally going to turn over? Whether it's the entry or the background, it's all better than ever. You were named Chu Xuanyang. Your parents have high hopes for you and have hired various teachers to teach you. Your qualifications are dull and you are slow to learn anything. Even, it seems very stupid. Your parents are disappointed and are preparing to have a second child, so they have plans to practice trumpet again. Henry Zhang, you really don't know what you are good at. I will blind your eyes when I am a late bloomer. Henry Zhang didn't panic at all and didn't think he was really stupid. As long as he works hard, he will definitely become smarter and smarter. You have a naughty personality, and you are always enthusiastic about everything you do. Your parents saw that you refused to change despite repeated admonitions, so they gave up on you and let you be an idle young master. Henry Zhang was dumbfounded. It doesn't matter if his talent is different, because he has a golden entry for unlimited evolution. However, if he does nothing, this golden entry will not be effective. By the way, the simulation has an immersive function, so I'll control it myself. With Henry Zhang thinking this way, he wanted to turn on this function. This time I am immersed in the scene and consume 1000 simulation coins. Do you want to confirm? Hearing the system prompt, Henry Zhang was slightly silent. In fact, it doesn't have to be immersive. After your parents gave up on you, your servants no longer respected you as they did before. There is only one personal maid who is loyal to you and never leaves you. Her name is Zi, you rescued her from a trafficker. Well, Zi, Henry Zhang was slightly startled. He looked at the little girl in the picture who looked like a little adult. Not to mention, he looks a bit like Shen Zi. When she grows up, maybe she will look exactly like her. Maybe this girl is Shen Zi's previous life. Henry Zhang thought playfully. You spent more than 100 taels of silver to buy a piece of purple jade from a vendor and gave it to Zi. This is all your savings. You were beaten half to death by Chu Yiguang and placed in solitary confinement. Okay, Since they thought I was dementia, they have ignored me. It's only 100 taels, which is nothing to this kind of family. Henry Zhang shook his head, having a new understanding of the coldness of this big family. On the other side, Shen Ziyi was wearing white pajamas, but the loose clothes could not hide her flawless body. She lay lazily on the sofa, forming a perfect curve. Shen Ziyi rubbed Ziyu, who had been keeping it close to her body, and was lost in thought. She was born with jade in her hand, and this jade has been with her for 25 years. Today, she suddenly felt uneasy, as if something was about to happen. Suddenly, in Shen Ziyi's shocked eyes, the purple jade emitted light and formed a vortex. When she came back to her senses, she had turned into a pretty little girl. How is this going? Shen Ziyi was flustered and at a loss. At this moment, a wave of memories poured into her mind. I was abducted by human traffickers since I was a child, and then I was rescued by Chu Xuanyang, the young master of the Chu family, and became his maid. He also spent more than 100 taels to buy this piece of jade for me. He was also whipped 30 times by the Chu family master and then put in solitary confinement. Shen Ziyi touched the purple jade hanging around her neck. Her pink face was very complicated. The eldest young master looked foolish. When he gave her this piece of jade, he smiled like a fool. What a fool! Shen Ziyi cursed softly, but hurriedly went to the kitchen to get food for Chu Xuanyang. Chu Xuanyang's situation is not good. No one cares about this fool except her. Since you saved me and gave me the purple jade, I will repay your kindness. Shen Ziyi thought to herself, I will leave after repaying my kindness. Her big and smart eyes were shining with excitement. Since she traveled back in time to ancient times, as an archaeology fan, how could she not explore this era? I just don't know which dynasty we are in now. After dealing with the cook's wife's difficulties, Shen Ziyi took a few steamed buns to the place where Chu Xuanyang was confined. She walked in through the gate of opening and saw a 10-year-old child lying on the bed, groaning. Purple clothes. Seeing Shen Ziyi come in, Chu Xuanyang's pale face showed a silly smile. Eat quickly. Shen Ziyi handed the steamed bun to Chu Xuanyang. Chu Xuanyang started to eat heavily. Why did you spend more than 100 taels of silver to buy a piece of purple jade? Are you going to get beaten? Shen Ziyi sighed. Ziyi likes it. I'm not afraid of getting beaten. A few simple words made Shen Ziyi's heart tremble slightly. Big fool. Shen Ziyi whispered softly. She looked at Chu Xuanyang and asked, do you have any wishes? I will definitely help you fulfill it. Once that's done, I'm leaving. She said silently in her heart. Desire. Chu Xuanyang tilted his head and showed a silly smile. My wish is that Ziyi will always be by my side. That's it. Shen Ziyi touched Chu Xuanyang's head. A flash of regret flashed in his eyes. I'm afraid she won't be able to fulfill this wish. I'm leaving now. I'll see you again in the evening. Shen Ziyi waved his hand and left the room. Since she couldn't stay with Chu Xuanyang forever, Shen Ziyi decided to let him live a good life before leaving. She started planning. If you want to live a good life in this big family, you can only make Master Chu happy. Therefore, she wanted to please Chu Yiguang. With her wisdom, this is not difficult. Within a month, Shen Ziyi pretended to be unintentional, came up with a plan for Chu Yiguang, and won a big business. This made the Chu family make a lot of money, so Ziyi's status jumped from a personal maid to a popular person around the Chu family master. Chu Yiguang discovered that Ziyi was not only very powerful in business, but she could also make suggestions for matters above the court. This shocked him so much that he treated Ziyi even more preferentially. 3 months later, Shen Ziyi was almost one person below 10,000 people in the Chu family. Shen Ziyi also picked up the forgotten Chu Xuanyang and let him continue to be an idle young master. On this day, Shen Ziyi looked through the book in his hand, with a hint of contemplation in his eyes. She did not travel through any dynasty in ancient times. The world is very big, and there are many other countries besides this country. Even the Chu family's collection of books does not contain a map of this world. However, she discovered something surprising. That is, there are immortals in this world. The Chu family can become the top family in this dynasty because the ancestor of the Chu family is related to an immortal. Ziyi, come play with me. At this moment, a silly voice came. A kid in brocade clothes ran over and looked at Shen Ziyi eagerly. Be good, sister, I still have something to do. I'll play with you later, okay? Shen Ziyi was helpless. Chu Xuanyang was in such a family, but his mind was not yet open. If I didn't have myself, I would probably be dead within a few years. Forget it, I will protect him for 10 years in return for saving my life. No, I want you to play with me now. Chu Xuanyang sat on the ground and acted rogue. Nizi, look what you look like. Just at this moment, Chu Yiguang walked in with a dark face. When he saw Chu Xuanyang's appearance, disgust flashed in his eyes. Chu Xuanyang was so frightened that he rolled over and ran out. Don't run away, I will beat you to death today. Chu Yiguang looked disgusted and wanted to chase after him. Master, let's go with the young master. Shen Zi stopped the clan leader. Humph, if he could be half as smart as you, I wouldn't have to worry so much. Chu Yiguang dropped the stick and sighed. Master, you seem to be in a bad mood. Can you talk to Zi? Shen Zi poured a cup of fragrant tea for Chu Yiguang. Chu Yiguang sighed. According to the frontline news, the devil is about to break into the capital. Is it him? An image of a devil with disheveled hair, ragged clothes, and a mace appeared in Shen Zi's mind. Seeing the look of shock on Shen Zi's face, Chu Yiguang snorted coldly. You don't have to panic. Immortals will come down to deal with him. He won't be arrogant for long. That's great. If I can catch a glimpse of the immortal, Zi will have no regrets in this life. Shen Zi flattered, but became even more surprised. Because she knew that the court would not invite immortals to come down to earth unless it was absolutely necessary. I heard that the devil is just immortal, but no one in Nuoda's court can deal with him. The next day, Chu Yiguang was listening to Shen Zi's report. Chu Xuanyang was grabbing his ears and kneeling aside with a bitter look on his face. Just now, he came to see Zi to play, but was accidentally caught by Chu Yiguang. Chu Yiguang was in a bad mood and wanted to beat him to vent his anger. However, Shen Zi pleaded for Chu Xuanyang, but she just made him kneel down. Shen Zi talked about business matters in an orderly manner, but Chu Yiguang didn't listen at all. He looked up and down at Shen Zi, his admiring gaze gradually becoming lustful. It's time to pick this delicate flower. She is already 12 years old, so she shouldn't be able to play to death, right? Shen Zi's heart tightened and she resisted the expression of disgust on her face. Chu Yiguang was the finance minister of the imperial court. However, he is also the mastermind behind the largest human trafficking in this dynasty. Shen Zi only discovered this recently. Chu Yiguang's hands were covered with blood, and he also liked young girls. Every few days, young girls from the private sector are secretly sent into the house. They came in alive but went out lying down. Ziyi, it will be my birthday in 2 days. Have you thought about what gift to give me? Chu Yiguang asked with a smile. Master, don't worry, I have already chosen it. You will be satisfied by then. Shen Zi said respectfully. Haha, actually you are the best gift for me. Chu Yiguang stretched out his hand and touched Shen Zi's little hand. Shen Zi was startled and quickly took a few steps back. Ziyi, why are you retreating? Chu Yiguang's face darkened, and he moved forward continuously, approaching Shen Zi. It's bad, although I had expected this day and made preparations in advance. But, could he bear it so quickly? Shen Zi was panicking. The means she had prepared could not be used yet. Now, it's going to be bad. Dad, I'm hungry. Chu Xuanyang suddenly hugged Chu Yiguang's leg. Get away, you fool. Chu Yiguang didn't hesitate and slapped him with his backhand. Chu Xuanyang screamed and let go of Chu Yiguang, shrinking in the corner. Ziyi, don't you like me? Chu Yiguang approached Shen Zi step by step with a sinister smile. Shen Zi's heart fell to the bottom. If her methods are useless, who can save her? Shen Zi looked at Chu Xuanyang. But Chu Xuanyang just covered his face and huddled in the corner with a look of horror. What am I thinking? He's just a fool. Shen Zi sighed softly, a flash of determination in his bright eyes. Just when Chu Yiguang's big hand was about to grab Shen Zi. Boom, there was a loud noise, and the Chu family's door exploded. The Chu family guards flew in upside down, spraying blood. By the time they fell to the ground, their hearts were already sunken and they were too dead to die. In the astonished eyes of several people, an extremely tall figure with disheveled hair walked in with blood on his face. Chapter 11. It's him. Shen Ziyi raised his head and looked at this tall figure. Waves of evil energy washed over her body like a violent storm, causing her brain to go blank. She had never seen anyone so terrifying. The tall figure walked up to Chu Yiguang and looked down at him quietly. Chu Yiguang's legs softened and he knelt in front of him. Is the human trafficking business profitable? The tall figure spoke, as if it was the whisper of a demon. Me. Chu Yiguang wanted to say something, but in front of this demon-like man, he didn't even have the courage to speak. The demon god looked up at the magnificent deep mansion and whispered to himself, "It seems that it is indeed very profitable." Snapped. Chu Yiguang's head was like a piece of tofu, blown into pieces in front of the devil's slap. The bursting minced meat splashed on Shen Ziyi's body and face. The figure of the devil slowly turned around and looked at Shen Ziyi. He slowly raised his hand and reached for Shen Ziyi. It's over. Shen Ziyi closed her eyes in despair. No one can survive in front of this devil. However, his slap never fell. Shen Ziyi opened her eyes in surprise, only to see a figure that was not tall, or even very thin, standing in front of her. Chu Xuanyang. Shen Ziyi looked shocked and even made a sound. Just now, Chu Xuanyang didn't even dare to stop his father, but now he dares to stand in front of this murderous demon. Magic beggar. Chu Xuanyang raised his head and looked at the tall figure. His eyes were no longer stupid, but instead flashed with an extremely complicated look. I see, it's such an interesting experience. Chu Xuanyang suddenly laughed. He covered his face and laughed. That happy look made Shen Ziyi feel that Chu Xuanyang had turned from a fool into a madman. How dare you laugh in front of a demon beggar who kills people like chickens? And laughing so loudly. After a while, Chu Xuanyang stopped smiling. You can't kill her, she is innocent. Chu Xuanyang looked up at the magic beggar and spoke calmly. You are his son. Are you innocent? The demon beggar asked calmly. Me, my body shouldn't be considered innocent. A smile appeared at the corner of Chu Xuanyang's mouth. He raised his head with a slightly crazy smile on his face. How about you kill me? I want to try what it feels like to die by my own hands. The demon beggar took a deep look at Chu Xuanyang and then strode out of Chu's house. The magic beggar actually let us go. He never leaves us alive. Shen Ziyi looked shocked and couldn't believe that he survived. Haha, you don't understand him. Chu Xuanyang said with a smile. Humph, I don't understand, do you understand? Shen Ziyi snorted softly. Who knows myself better than myself? Chu Xuanyang or Zhongzhan said silently in his heart. Henry Zhong was slightly lost in thought, recalling what happened. Ziyi became a celebrity around Chu Yiguang. Ziyi begged for mercy and released you from confinement. When Henry Zhong saw this, he was a little speechless. He is a dignified noble young master, but his life is better because of the little maid beside him. You kneel aside and see your father showing a strange smile to Ziyi. You were upset and you tried to stop your father. You were slapped by him. You were scared and huddled in the corner, not daring to move. Coward, beat him up, come on. Don't you see that your maid is going to be bullied? Henry Zhong looked at Chu Xuanyang in the simulator hiding next to him like a coward, and he was so angry that his stomach ached. Do you want to be there and save her life? Henry Zhong was still hesitating when he saw the door being blown apart. Then, that figure that was no more familiar than him appeared in front of him. The appearance of this figure made his scalp numb and his eyes widened. In the year 2886 of the Chinese calendar, the supreme martial arts, a generation of demon beggars sneaked into the capital and broke into the Chu family. The Chu family is the biggest mastermind behind the human trafficking organization, and the devil wants to eliminate the evil. In Henry Zhong's shocked eyes, Chu Yiguang's head was slapped to pieces. At this time, Henry Zhong also recalled an experience in the simulation at that time. When he learned that the man behind the human trafficking organization was a senior official of the imperial court, he couldn't help it and went to the capital. It was a simulation anyway. He acted without scruples and fully lived up to his title of devil beggar and crazy beggar. After he entered the capital, he directly killed the senior official. At that time, he seemed to have met a child, which touched his heart. However, that was just an insignificant episode in the magic beggar's life. Henry Zhong almost didn't take it to heart. Unexpectedly, that episode continued into this simulation. So, the devil beggar in the previous life killed the father in this life. Henry Zhang's head hurt so much that he felt like he was going to grow a brain. However, he didn't have time to think too much because Ziyi was about to die. Immersive, you stood in front of the demon beggar to prevent him from killing people. The demon beggar gave up for some unknown reason. He's gone. You watched the magic beggar leave with mixed emotions. You want to tell him, be careful of immortals. You know the devil beggar, there is no turning back for him. His life has long been doomed. Ha, this devil is really gone. I hope the immortal will come and get rid of him soon. Ziyi said with lingering fear. You looked at Ziyi with cold eyes. Have you ever gotten to know this so-called devil? Ziyi was slightly startled and said nothing. She seems to be reflecting on herself and is shocked by the tone of your words now. Ziyi quickly asked, Zan Yang, is your brain okay? Call master. You hit Ziyi on the head. Ziyi covered his head, very dissatisfied. She asked you what your future plans are. If you decide not to go anywhere, just wait at Chu's house. You know, the immortal will come in a few days. You want to see the immortal. From another perspective, Shen Ziyi fell into deep doubt. Her young master is very strange now. A completely different person. His father died in front of him, and he didn't feel any sadness at all. Instead, dared to face the devil head-on. He dared to hit himself on the head. Shen Ziyi didn't know what her young master was thinking. He left all the chores in the Chu family to her. Then, he went back to his room to read. That calm look was as if nothing had happened. Your father just died, don't you even pretend. Shen Ziyi murmured in her heart, although this old guy died a good death, it is you lousy after all. Shen Ziyi looked deeply at Chu Xuanyang, who was tired from studying and started to exercise again. Are you a time traveler like me? Or were you just pretending before, and now that your father is dead, your true nature is revealed? Shen Ziyi didn't know the truth of the matter. Now she just desperately wants to know what kind of person the devil who makes her heart tremble is. 3 days later, Shen Ziyi looked at the thick information in his hand, and his fingers turned white. For such a great hero, I actually call him a devil. Shen Ziyi fell into deep self-blame. He killed people like crazy, but all he killed were corrupt officials and all he killed were big thieves. In a few decades, wherever he passes, it will change from a hell filled with hunger and death to a prosperous age of living and working in peace and contentment. It turns out that the world is so bad, but he took it all on. Shen Ziyi whispered to himself. What's wrong? You seem to blame yourself. Chu Xuanyang, who was sweating profusely, walked up to Shen Ziyi. Yes, I wrongly blamed the devil beggar. No, he is a saint. Shen Ziyi said reproachfully. Saint, haha, no way to talk about it. Chu Xuanyang waved his hand and said calmly, he just did a little thing to follow his heart. Little things. Shen Ziyi stood up and glared at Chu Xuanyang. Chu Xuanyang, what do you, a young man in a honeypot, know? Do you know how miserable the people are? Eat soil, gnaw tree bark, even exchange children for food. Without him, the people of this country would have had no hope. It was he who saved the people, and he is a well-deserved saint. Shen Ziyi's face turned red, and she couldn't stand Chu Xuanyang's casual attitude. Chu Xuanyang's careless look made Shen Ziyi's teeth itch with anger. Chu Xuanyang's expression suddenly became serious and he looked at Shen Ziyi seriously. Ha, do you know you were wrong? Shen Ziyi asked angrily. From now on, my name is Xuanyang. Xuanyang stretched out his finger and flicked it on Shen Ziyi's forehead. Also, you want to call me young master. Chu Xuanyang, I will fight with you. Also, apologize to the saint quickly. Shen Ziyi bared her teeth and claws to deal with Xuanyang. Report. A guard ran in with an ecstatic expression on his face. What's up? Shen Ziyi's expression changed and became dignified. Master, Miss Ziyi, the guard said with great joy. The devil is dead and was killed by the immortal. The master's revenge has been avenged. Master, you don't know. I heard that the demon's head fell off with just a finger from the immortal. The guard kept gesticulating and talking, with an excited look on his face. Go out, Xuanyang whispered coldly. Ah, the guard was stunned for a moment. Go out, Xuanyang looked at the guard. The guard shuddered inexplicably when he came into contact with Xuanyang's cold eyes. He had seen the devil from a distance. At this time, the look in his young master's eyes was exactly the same as that of the devil. Why do you want to kill him? Shen Ziyi's face was pale, and her figure was swaying and unsteady. Life or death is determined by fate. Xuanyang held her arm. Since he is an immortal, why can't he see clearly? He is not a devil at all, he is a saint. Shen Ziyi shouted. Don't be stupid, girl. Xuanyang said softly, the immortal wants to kill him only after he knows the truth. Shen Ziyi's body trembled, and she suddenly looked up at Xuanyang. However, Xuanyang's face was hidden in the shadow of the sun, so she couldn't see clearly what Xuanyang's expression looked like. Okay, that's none of our business. I'm going to go exercise. Xuanyang waved his hand, turned and left. Shen Ziyi looked at Xuanyang's back and couldn't understand him. The devil beggar is dead, why is he so calm? If he regards the magic beggar as his enemy, he can be happy. If he regards the beggar as his savior, he can be angry. However, Xuanyang was too calm. What is hidden under this calm lake? The death of the devil beggar was within your expectation. Under your calm appearance, your heart is like a volcano about to erupt. Everyone is familiar with the system. Don't talk nonsense, or I will sue you for defamation. Henry Zhang raised his middle finger. The immortal's name is Wan Dao, which is related to your ancestors. After he solved the magic beggar, he went straight to Chu's house. Wan Dao looks at you, your master is dead, are you in charge now? Wan Dao is your murderer. When you are angry, you will splash his blood. Roll. Henry Zhang was speechless. What's wrong with this system? Did Laozi spend 1,000 simulation coins just to splash the blood of this thief? Kneel down and kowtow, immortal, please accept me as your disciple. Ziyi stood aside with a look of shock on his face. Your qualifications are too poor, you are not qualified to be my disciple. Wan Dao shook his head. You're okay. Are you willing to be my apprentice? Wan Dao looked at Ziyi. Me. Ziyi was slightly startled. Xian Chong, she is willing. You winked at Ziyi quickly. Ziyi hesitated slightly, then plucked up the courage and said, I am willing to be the disciple of the immortal master. However, I also want the young master to join the immortal sect together. Wan Dao smiled slightly, that's not impossible. Then let's be a handyman together. Wan Dao released a palm-sized boat. When it landed on the ground and faced the wind, it grew into 2 meters. You are very shocked, it turns out that this is the method of immortals. Wan Dao floated onto the flying boat and waved, come up. After you and Ziyi got on the flying boat flew up under Wan Dao's spell and soared into the sky. On the flying boat, with a flattering look on your face, you approached Wan Dao. Next to you, Ziyi looks at you with disdain. System, it's too much. Please explain to me, what is a flattering look? What is a contemptuous look? Henry Zhang's fists were hardened, and most of the time this dog system was just a narration tone. But why is the tone so irritating? You looked at Wan Dao and said with admiration, Chief Immortal, you are so powerful. That demon is invincible in the world and is the supreme king of martial arts. You actually killed him instantly. Ziyi glares at you angrily. Haha, he is indeed very strong among mortals. But in front of immortal cultivators, he is nothing more than an ant. Wan Dao smiled indifferently. Immortal cultivator, aren't you an immortal? You looked confused. It's too far off. Wan Dao shook his head slightly. No matter what, by getting rid of this devil, the immortal has eliminated a great harm to the world. You are truly a man of great merit. You praised him very flatteringly. Ziyi gritted his teeth and glared at you. In your eyes, he is indeed a devil. But in the eyes of the people, he may not be so. Don't you understand this? Wan Dao looked at you with a half smile. Hearing Wan Dao's words, Ziyi was very confused. In that case, why did you kill a good man? It doesn't matter who is the emperor. But you must be obedient. That demon beggar is rebellious by nature and will not listen to my orders. Wan Dao said lightly. What the hell are you doing? Who said Laozi won't obey orders? Did you give me a chance? Henry looked aggrieved. If Wan Dao had asked him to surrender, it would have been no problem. He must kneel down on the spot and call him daddy. At worst, when there is a chance in the future, Wan Dao will die more miserably. Ziyi said, but if he dies, many people will die again in the world. What does this have to do with me? Wan Dao was very confused, besides, he is just an ant. If he dies, he will die. Ziyi's eyes widened, you took a step forward and held her. He said disdainfully, "You little girl knows nothing. In the eyes of the immortal, there is no difference between mortals and ants." Wan Dao smiled and nodded, "Girl, there is a difference between immortals and mortals. In our eyes, there is no difference between mortals and pigs and dogs." You smile even brighter. You praised, "I must cultivate to be as powerful as an immortal. Let those ants know how powerful I am." Wan Dao smiled. In his eyes, your poor qualifications are nothing more than an ant's fate. The flying boat flew towards the deep mountains. 2 hours later, the flying boat seemed to have entered another world. The birds are singing and the flowers are fragrant, and the birds and animals are leisurely and at ease, just like a paradise. Huge mountains, endless, cranes and flying swords flashed across it, creating a fairy scene. You look at all this with extremely deep eyes. The devil beggar has been fighting all his life. Every place he has seen is hell on earth. Only in the capital, he saw prosperity. Compared to where it is now, the capital is so insignificant. You wonder, if there is such a paradise, why millions of people can't come here. System, please don't add drama to me, okay? Henry Zhang rolled his eyes. Laozi is here to become an immortal, what do those common people care about me? The flying boat flashes past and enters the sect. Wan Dao left you at the foot of the mountain and left with Zi. Mom sells batches and leaves me like this. Just wait, you already have a way to die. Henry Zhang cursed secretly. You entered the Shenyang sect and you tested your qualifications. Your qualifications are very poor, 5 elements and mixed spiritual roots. You are not even qualified to be a handyman of the Shenyang sect. Because you are the disciple brought by Wan Dao, you were not driven away. In the year 2886 of the Chinese calendar, you became a handyman disciple of the Shenyang sect. The above gave you a book of Qi Lian Ju, leaving you to fend for yourself. The handyman disciples who stay in the Shenyang sect must hand in 3 spiritual stones every month. If you choose to chop wood, you can earn 3 spiritual stones a month. You get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and take the steamed buns and water up the mountain to chop wood. You go down the mountain at 6 o'clock in the evening and finish chopping wood for the day. Start practicing the Qi Lian Ju. A handyman will tell you that practicing Qi Ju is the lowest form of exercise. With the qualifications of a handyman disciple, it will be impossible to practice it successfully. They also tell you that even if you are lucky enough to succeed in cultivation, you will be even more desperate. It is a flawed technique that cannot break through to a higher realm and will stay in the Qi refining stage forever. You are destined to be a handyman disciple in this life, so don't waste your time practicing. You are confused as to why they still stay here and continue to be servant disciples, since they know there is no hope. They plan for future generations and work as handyman disciples here, so that future generations will have the opportunity to join the immortal sect. If you don't listen to them, you can continue to chop wood during the day and practice at night. While you are working and practicing, you are also inquiring about the world of immortality. You know, the realm of cultivating immortals is to practice qi, build foundation, form elixirs, yuanying, transform into gods, return to the void, combine the Tao, and overcome tribulations. Wan Dao is an elder of the outer sect and a cultivator in the alchemy stage. Elixir formation period. You seem to have a goal. You chop wood every day, and your ability to chop wood continues to grow. Your axe is getting better and better. Your qi training skills are becoming more and more effective. You feel like you are about to succeed in cultivation. 5 years later, you will successfully practice the Qi Lian Ju and become an immortal cultivator at the first level of Qi Lian. Henry Zhang was speechless. His qualifications were indeed poor enough. In the past 5 years, he has not lost a day. Even if it is a flawed technique, it has taken too long. 6 years later, you chop wood every day and understand a skill. Please name the skill. Henry Zhang was slightly startled. Could he understand the technique just by chopping firewood? Then his qualifications are not bad. By the way, he has the entry for infinite evolution. Years of chopping firewood made him evolve, and he finally understood the technique. You named your technique, pig-killing knife technique. 8 years later, you will become a second-level immortal cultivator in qi refining. At the same time, your pig-killing knife skills are perfected. 9 years later, you made another breakthrough and became a third-level immortal cultivator in qi refining. You improved the pig-killing knife technique and took it to a higher level. Another half-year later, you made a breakthrough and became a 4th-level immortal cultivator in chi refining. Your pig-killing knife technique has been improved again. Chinese calendar, year 2906. Shenyang sect, Wandao Peak. A fairy-like woman wearing shai sat cross-legged. Suddenly, the aura around her body fluctuated. The surrounding flowers and plants grew crazily in this breath. As she breathed, her figure was enveloped by tall trees and grass. Call. Shen Zi opened her eyes and exhaled slightly. The trees around them have just grown wildly. The flowers and plants turned back to their original appearance as if time had flown backwards. It's finally the late stage of pill formation. Shen Zi's eyes were slightly complicated. 20 years ago, after she was brought to Shenyang sect, her aptitude was tested. Originally, Wan Dao wanted to accept her as his disciple. However, she turned out to be the body of a wood spirit. This is a mutated heaven-level high-grade wood attribute spiritual root. Therefore, the whole sect was alarmed. Even the head of the divine transformation stage personally came forward to accept her as his disciple. Shen Zi has a natural affinity for the wood attribute. After cultivating to the nascent soul, strange phenomena will appear. You can even directly comprehend magical powers. Cultivation of immortals, superpowers. Shen Zi murmured to himself. 20 years later, she is no longer a pure novice in the world of immortality. She was already smart, and she completely understood what the so-called superpowers were in her previous life. In fact, superpowers are all geniuses with spiritual roots and the qualifications to cultivate immortality. Just relying on their spiritual roots, they can exert various abilities. You can imagine how good their qualifications are. However, she got a message. That is, there are fewer and fewer superpowers in the past life, which means that there are fewer and fewer geniuses with spiritual root qualifications. What is the reason for this? And, is my current world a different world or a prehistoric civilization? As the head disciple, she can master most of the information. Therefore, she gradually developed this doubt. In her eyes, this world is surprisingly similar to the world described in Shanhai Jing. Not only the geographical environment, but also many strange beasts and many natural and earthly treasures can be matched. There were just a few doubts that she couldn't figure out. First, the world is very big. She didn't know exactly how big it was. But it is definitely much bigger than the Earth. If it is really a prehistoric civilization, is it possible that the Earth has shrunk in size for nothing? The second point is that now that she is an immortal cultivator in the elixir formation stage, she can go to heaven and earth. Can use many incredible methods. What's more, there are more powerful immortal cultivators. According to his master, there are still many old monsters in the tribulation period who are practicing in secret. How could such a powerful civilization be destroyed? She could not imagine what kind of disaster it would be to destroy such a powerful civilization. Maybe it's a coincidence. Shen Zi said this to herself, but she couldn't convince herself. Now that I have reached the advanced stage of elixir formation, I can go down the mountain to practice. She wants to go out for a walk in person to find opportunities to break through the nascent soul stage and the truth about the world. My stupid young master. He has been a handyman for 20 years. I wonder how he is doing now. Go and see him. A smile appeared at the corner of Shen Zi's mouth. Under Yamanaka, Zi met an acquaintance. Wan Dao looked at the unparalleled young girl in front of him and said with slight shock, Zi, are you in the late stage of pill formation? Shen Zi frowned slightly and opened her mouth slightly. What did you call me? Wan Dao was stunned for a moment, then he quickly lowered his head and said respectfully, Little Master Uncle. Snort. Shen Zi snorted lightly and floated away. Bitch, if I hadn't brought you into the sect, would you be here today? Wan Dao's face was twisted and he clenched his fists angrily. However, he quickly sighed with a dejected look on his face. It took him more than 70 years to form the elixir. Now, there are still several years of hard work before being promoted to the middle stage of Dan formation. However, it only took Zi 20 years to reach the late stage of pill formation. Maybe in less than 10 years, he will be a great monk in the nascent soul stage. The 40-year-old nascent soul. This terrifying qualification can only be matched by the head of the entire sect. Since there is nothing I can do against you, I can always deal with that trash. Wan Dao felt resentful. This Ziyi turned her back and refused to recognize anyone. She was very kind to everyone, but she was cold-eyed towards herself. Because of Ziyi's attitude, his situation in Shenyang sect became very unfavorable. When Ziyi found Xuanyang, he was making a fire in the woods and grilling an animal leg more than half a meter long. Xuanyang raised his head and looked at Ziyi. You came here because of the smell. I finally cooked it, but I won't give it to you. Shen Ziyi. Bah, who wants your barbecued legs? Ziyi sat on a big stone next to him and looked at Xuanyang. I haven't seen him for so many years, and Xuanyang is already a tall young man. He is not very handsome, but very good looking. Especially those eyes, bright and deep. Just by looking at him, I felt the urge to get to know him. It seems that these eyes contain many stories. Why does this look familiar? Shen Ziyi shook his head slightly. It must be an illusion. Xuanyang, do you still know me? Ziyi sat elegantly aside and asked lightly. Look what you said, how can anyone not recognize the master's genius disciple? Xuanyang's expression was very serious. However, Shen Ziyi can guarantee that his seriousness must not be because of her, but because of the animal leg in his hand. When he spoke, his eyes never left the animal's legs. It seemed that the appeal of the beast's legs was greater than hers. You guy, Shen Ziyi gritted her silver teeth, her calm heart tumbling because of Xuanyang. This casual attitude always irritated her nerves. Besides, Xuanyang turned his eyes to Shen Ziyi, frowning very unhappy. Didn't I tell you, you want to call me master? A true disciple of mine calls you, the handyman disciple, young master. Shen Ziyi asked in shock. Of course, this is our fate. Xuanyang said with a smile. Bah, just go ahead and dream. I will never call you master in this life. Shen Ziyi spat lightly. However, you were right. You were my benefactor after all. So, I'm here to repay your kindness. This is the Burning Sun Kung Fu, the superior Kung Fu technique of the Shenyang sect. These 2 bottles of elixirs can help you break through the Qi training stage and reach the foundation building stage. There is also this talisman, which can block a full blow during the Dan formation stage. They're all given to you. Shen Ziyi took out a bunch of things and handed them to Xuanyang. Good. Thank you very much. Xuanyang nodded casually and concentrated on roasting the animal's legs. Zanyang. Shen Ziyi gritted his teeth and stood up. His hair was windless and his eyes were shining with light. Why are you shouting so loudly? You're scaring me. Xuanyang took out his knife, cut off 2 kilograms of meat from the animal's leg, and asked. Are you going to eat or not? Food. Shen Ziyi nodded and sat down obediently. Just now, she couldn't bear the scent of the beast's legs. If it weren't for her strong willpower, she would have wanted to rob it. She threw aside the elixirs and techniques that even the inner disciples would break their heads to snatch, and took the animal leg meat very reverently. Xuanyang didn't even look at it. He pulled the meat from the animal's leg and ate it. Shen Ziyi tore off a piece of animal meat and put it in his mouth. She chewed gently, her eyes shining brightly. She could swear that she had never eaten such delicious food in her previous life or in this life. How did Xuanyang do it? Is it a problem with the ingredients, or is it a problem with the grilling technique? Wrong. After Shen Ziyi swallowed the beast meat, she felt an energy bursting out of her body, which actually affected her cultivation. Is this the meat of a strange beast in the nascent soul stage? Shen Ziyi stood up and looked at Zanyang in shock. Really, I don't know. Xuanyang blinked. You're lying. Do you think strange beasts in the nascent soul stage are very common? Shen Ziyi said angrily. Nowadays, strange beasts that connect to the Dan stage rarely appear. As the head disciple, she has only eaten animal meat from the nascent soul stage once in 20 years. That time, in order to help her break through to the alchemy stage, her headmaster reluctantly took out 10 kilograms of animal meat. However, Xuanyang in front of him was eating a Yuanying stage beast leg weighing more than 100 kilograms. How come the dignified leader is in more financial straits than this idiot young master like myself? Shen Ziyi looked at Xuanyang eating meat and fell into self-doubt. She must be dreaming now, not reality. On the outside and tender on the inside. The animal meat in the nascent soul stage contains very powerful energy, and not just anyone can eat it. When she ate 10 kilograms of animal meat, she still wanted Master to protect her. Otherwise, the energy in her body cannot be controlled and she is in danger of going crazy. Look at Xuanyang again. With one mouthful, a pound of meat was torn off and swallowed with both chewing and swallowing. Haha, I was hallucinating. If it were animal flesh from the nascent soul stage, Xuanyang would have exploded and died. Shen Zi sat down with a smile. She ate another piece of animal meat and put it in her mouth. That powerful ability collided within her body, and was then forcibly digested by her, becoming her spiritual power. Oh shit, this is King nascent soul stage beast meat. Shen Zi felt that either she was crazy or the world was crazy. Where does Yuanyang stage animal meat come from? How dare Xuanyang eat animal meat like this? Why is nothing wrong with him? Don't you like it? Then give it back to me. Xuanyang's mouth was full of oil after eating, and he was still thinking about the beast meat in Shen Zi's hand. Don't even think about it. Shen Zi protected the beast's flesh like an old mother protecting her calf. I don't want to think about it anymore, let's eat first and then talk. Shen Zi was no longer reserved and bit into the beast meat. But the way he gritted his teeth seemed to be biting Xuanyang's flesh. However, she ate quickly, and Xuanyang ate even faster. Shen Zi was so anxious that every time she took a bite of meat, she had to use her spiritual power to digest the energy. Otherwise, even as a cultivator in the late stage of elixir formation, she would be in danger of going crazy. However, Xuanyang is like eating ordinary meat. No, eating ordinary meat is not as fast as him. Save some for me, I want more. Zi couldn't care less about his face, stepped forward and grabbed Xuanyang's sleeve, looking at him eagerly. Okay. Xuanyang took out the knife and cut off another 10 kilograms of animal meat for her with a casual slash. When Shen Zi was only halfway through eating, the meat of more than 100 kilograms had already entered Xuanyang's stomach. Shen Zi also forgot to eat meat. She stared at Xuanyang dumbfounded, like a fool. Girl, what's wrong with you? Xuanyang casually threw the animal leg bone aside and looked at Shen Zi strangely. Shen Zi looked at the animal leg bones thrown aside like garbage, and the corners of her mouth twitched. This is an animal bone from the nascent soul stage, and immortal cultivators at the pill formation stage are fighting for it. Now, Xuanyang actually threw it away as garbage during his qi training period. Shen Zi carefully placed the remaining 5 kilograms of animal meat in the storage bag. She couldn't eat any more and had some indigestion. The rest can only be eaten tomorrow. She is a cultivator in the late stage of pill formation and can only eat 6 pounds. Xuanyang can eat 100 kilograms in a qi training state. And judging from his appearance, it's not his limit at all. Unlike her, the energy in her body is constantly surging, making her fair little face dyed with a touch of beauty. Shen Zi looked at Xuanyang and asked seriously. Zanyang, where did this beast meat come from? Why can you eat so much without fear of exploding and dying? Xuanyang was lying on the grass, crossing his legs and dangling. He picked his teeth with a toothpick and said casually. Well, I can't hide it from you. I'll tell you the truth. Shen Zi looked serious, always feeling like she was about to hear a big secret. Actually, although I'm only in the qi training period, I'm very strong. I guess I'm pretty strong. I'm almost a god. I can fight even if I'm combined. Shen Zi looked at Xuanyang's serious nonsense and wanted to suffocate him to death with a stick. Just talk nonsense, don't talk about it. Shen Zi said angrily. No one believes the truth. Xuanyang shrugged and stood up. Shen Zi and he walked side by side, like a pair of golden boys and girls. When I came down the mountain, I saw Wan Dao. I didn't give him a good look. A flash of emotion flashed in Shen Zi's eyes. Under the Shenyang sect, 5 countries are managed. Our Apocalypse Kingdom is just the weaker one among them. These 5 countries must provide a large amount of treasures to Shenyang sect every year. Xuanyang smiled half-heartedly, but they don't even care about the lives of these people. Shen Zi was slightly silent, unable to refute Zanyang. Her master was very kind to her, but it was not difficult to tell from his usual tone of voice that he never paid attention to the common people. Are you going down the mountain? Xuanyang asked. Yes, I want to walk around. I have many doubts in my heart. I want to go and see for myself. When Shen Zi faced Xuanyang's inquiry, she felt the urge to talk. Even to her master, she never revealed her thoughts. Well, read thousands of books and travel thousands of miles. Xuanyang nodded. Shen Ziyi nodded, then raised his head suddenly and looked at Zhan Yang in shock. What's wrong with you? You're a 30-year-old girl, and you get startled every day. Xuanyang said speechlessly. Fart, I haven't been as shocked as I am today in these decades. Shen Ziyi secretly complained. Read more, walk more. Shen Ziyi pondered. This sentence was only spoken in his previous life. Xuanyang, are you a time traveler too? She thought of 20 years ago, when Xuanyang was just a silly naughty boy who only clung to her. However, when the magic beggar wanted to kill her, he actually dared to stand up and save her. From then on, he was completely different from before. So, you traveled through time at that time. Shen Ziyi looked at Xuanyang proudly. Now she finally knew Xuanyang's little secret. I'm either shocked or giggling. I'm afraid he's not a fool. Xuanyang asked worriedly, are you out of your mind? Humph, I know your secret. Shen Ziyi smiled proudly, I will tell you the secret when I come back. Ziyi knows your secret, and you fall into deep thought. Which secret of yours does she know? She knows you are a Sims player. Do you still know that you are so strong now that even the leader is no match for you? Do you still know that although you are still in the Qi training stage, you have reached the 195th level of Qi training as an immortal cultivator? I still know you. Okay, stop it, or you'll have to talk all day long. Henry Zhang rolled his eyes. That's right, his current character Xuanyang is already at the 195th level of Qi training. No, he was stretching just now and accidentally advanced again. He is an immortal cultivator at the 196th level of Qi training. If this spreads out in the world of immortality, not to mention the heads of various sects, I am afraid that those hidden old monsters will come out and slice him up for study. He now understands how powerful the Golden Entry's infinite evolution is. Not only his physical fitness, but also his understanding, potential, and qualifications are constantly evolving. In the beginning, it took him several years to break through. Breaking through the realm now only takes one meal. In the 11th year after coming to Shenyang sect, Henry Zhang broke through to the 9th level of Qi training. Logically speaking, Qi Lianju can only allow him to cultivate to this level, and he will no longer be able to continue practicing. If you want to practice, you can only change the method. However, Henry Zhang just spent half a year improving his Qi training skills. He successfully broke through. However, it is not the breakthrough to the foundation building stage, but the 10th level of Qi training. Henry Zhang was a little confused and didn't know why this happened. However, this is The Sims, and Henry Zhang acts without scruples. He just made mistakes and continued to practice. His breakthrough speed is getting faster and faster, and within 20 years of coming to Shenyang sect, he has become what he is now. Henry Zhang wondered, how strong is he now? Can the head of Shenyang sect withstand his blow? It's hard to say. After all, he is the leader, so he should have a lot of trump cards. You walk towards the handyman peak, ready to pack your things and leave the sect. You need to retreat and create a technique. You are lost in thought, and you seem to have forgotten something very important. Are you Ziyi's former young master, Xuanyang? Suddenly, Wan Dao appears in front of you. You looked at Wan Dao and smiled happily. You finally remembered that there was nothing left to do. It was me or the elder who brought me to the sect. You are my great benefactor. You looked at Wan Dao with a smile. Benefactor, but today I will kill you. Wan Dao sneered. You were shocked and said quickly, Elder, why do you want to kill me? If I want to blame you, just blame Ziyi. Remember to give birth to a good child in your next life. Don't get involved with this woman. Wan Dao said angrily. You suddenly realize, it turned out that the elder did not dare to deal with Ziyi, and now he wants to take it out on me. Humph. Wan Dao snorted coldly, his expression ugly. But, I used to be Ziyi's young master. Aren't you afraid that she would kill you? You asked loudly. Ziyi, this bitch, doesn't even pay attention to me. A bastard like you is just an ant. She has forgotten you a long time ago. Wan Dao sneered, you ant, die. He stretched out his finger, and just like before, a ray of light flashed across your neck. You are not dead, you just feel a little itchy on your neck. You scratch your neck and ask with a smile, Elder, why am I not dead yet? What's going on? Wan Dao was stunned for a moment, then pointed again. It's just that the light fell on your neck, but it didn't make any waves. You sigh in your heart, the demon beggar was no match for Wan Dao's casual spiritual power. Now, the same finger is not even qualified to cause you pain. You looked at the shocked Wan Dao and said, Elder, you made a mistake. What's the matter? Wan Dao asked subconsciously. You said I am an ant, but actually you are the ant now. You walked towards Wan Dao. Wan Dao looked terrified and used various means to kill you. In fact, he even used his own trump card and still didn't hurt you. How could this happen? This is impossible. Wan Dao couldn't accept it and collapsed emotionally. Look at your miserable appearance. Weren't you very majestic when you killed the demon beggar? You said calmly. Wan Dao ignored you, jumped into the air, and was about to escape. You grab one of his legs, pull it gently, and tear off his leg. Wan Dao screamed and rolled on the ground. Ah, I'm sorry. I used too much force. Your expression looked apologetic. Wan Dao used his spiritual power to stop the bleeding. Then he had to use his sword to escape. Don't leave in a hurry. You quickly stepped forward to hold him back and took his arm. His arm clicked and was pulled off by you. What's going on? Why did it fall off again? You asked angrily, are you trying to touch the porcelain? What are you talking about? It hurts me to death. Wan Dao was about to cry without tears, with extremely fear in his eyes. Your powerful power makes him feel like a mortal when facing a powerful immortal cultivator. Your body is so fragile, it's not much stronger than an ant. You said. Yes, I am an ant. Please let me go. Wan Dao cried bitterly and knelt in front of you. I still like the way you were aloof before. You sighed. You know, I will never forget the scene where you downplayed killing the magic beggar. Stand up, you said calmly. Huh. Wan Dao struggled and stood up on one leg. Back then, you stood with your hands behind your hands. I understood a sentence, and then stretched out your finger, and the magic beggar died. You said, how handsome, let's do it again. Wan Dao is about to cry but has no tears, I only have one arm. Oh, this is easy to handle. You picked up the torn-off arm and punched Wan Dao's wound. Blood spatters and flesh foam flies everywhere. Wan Dao was dying from pain. Press it, let's start. You nodded with satisfaction. Wan Dao looked very numb as he looked at his arm that had been pressed into rotten flesh. Devil, I will fight you. Wan Dao yelled angrily. Interesting, I turned into a devil again. I like this name. You laughed. You make me so happy, I'll reward you by breaking another arm. You pulled it happily, and Wan Dao's other arm also fell off. You looked at Wan Dao and frowned. This doesn't look good, it's not balanced. Let me help you. You also tore off Wan Dao's remaining leg, and he became a human stick. It feels much more comfortable this way. You nodded with satisfaction. Devil, please kill me. Wan Dao's face was ashen. Kill you, because you killed so many people, and you still killed me. How could I be willing to just kill you? You smiled, like a devil. Half an hour later, you walked out of the jungle refreshed. There was only a pool of blood, and Wan Dao had disappeared from this world. After dealing with Wan Dao, you ejected directly into the mountains. You have a lot of curiosity about this world, so you created a technique to hide your body. You not only went to the Sutra Depository Pavilion of Shenyang sect, but also visited the Sutra Depository Pavilions of other sects. There was a great cataclysm in this world thousands of years ago. No sect knows the history before the catastrophe. After the Great Catastrophe, it was an immortal who spread the teachings, and then various sects came into being. That immortal also created a very strange sect called Holy Land Number 1. You also discovered a very strange thing: there is no mystery in this world. This is very wrong. This world is rich in spiritual energy, but the people are so miserable and full of resentment. Why can't a trick be formed? You need to create a technique that can find resentment. It may take a year, or even 10 years. You are already mentally prepared. 3 days later, you are out of seclusion. You created the technique. After you went down the mountain, you galloped all the way to the Kengshui Kingdom. This is also a country under the Shenyang sect. This is a country where the human living environment is 100 times worse than the Kingdom of Apocalypse. Kangshui State has a population of more than 50 million and suffers from floods all year round. Because of floods and plague, food is not available. Thousands of people die every day. The entire country has collapsed. The royal family had no time to take care of itself, and various places rose up to overthrow the royal family. Everywhere you go here, people are dying. Death in war, hunger, disease, suicide. This miserable scene makes you think this is hell. The royal family of Kangshui Kingdom has been destroyed, and the Shenyang sect has not taken action. The Kangshui Kingdom is about to be destroyed. More than 50 million people have been killed or injured, but the Shenyang sect still has not taken action. Back then, the demon beggar was just about to attack the capital, when the Shenyang sect hurriedly took action and killed the demon beggar. You suddenly laughed when you thought of this. Do you think Wan Dao would take action because he has a connection with the royal family of Tianqi Kingdom? However, Wan Dao's confession before his death made you realize that you were wrong. Wan Dao takes action. This is the will of Shenyang sect. There is only one reason for the death of the devil beggar. That was the thought he brought back then. Back then, the magic beggar told the people that we are all human beings, why should we suffer endless oppression? If you want to live a good life, you must resist and fight back. Princes, generals, and ministers would rather have the seed. No matter how hard the ants fight, it doesn't matter if they all die. If an ant becomes hostile to humans, it will be crushed to death without mercy. Even though this ant didn't even have the concept of a human being at that time. This is provoking the authority of Shenyang sect. Therefore, the demon beggar must die. You have arrived at a county town in Kangshui Kingdom. The county town is quiet, covered with clouds and filled with smoke. A gust of wind blew by and opened up a corner of the city. That is a road paved with corpses. A few days ago, hundreds of thousands of refugees attacked this county. After killing tens of thousands of people, the power in the county town finally could no longer hold on. When the refugees entered the city, they went crazy, killing, looting and eating randomly. Today, the entire city has become a dead city. All the dead people looked desperate, and their expressions were full of distortion and madness. To die so tragically, how much resentment they must have. But you don't notice any resentment at all. You stand on the spot and use the self-created 9 nether eyes. In your imagination, the 9 nether eyes can see through the void, directly to the 9 netherworlds of the underworld, the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and all the evil spirits have no escape. Your 9 nether eyes has not yet been fully developed, so you can only see the evil energy within 1,000 miles radius. Your pupils suddenly turn dark, making your whole person become full of magic. If you look around, there is really no resentment in the whole city. This is unreasonable. You suddenly discovered something. You realized that resentment did not exist, but that after it was formed, it merged into the ground. You use the pupil technique and look underground. You can barely see tens of thousands of meters underground, and there are traces of resentment surging rapidly in one direction. Just a few breaths, and the resentment disappears from your perception. You chase in the direction, but you can no longer trace your original resentment. People are dying everywhere in Kangshui country. You are not afraid of losing your way at all. You pursued all the way and left the Kangshui kingdom. You have passed through many countries, and every country is in constant war, with corpses everywhere. You have become numb, you just want to see where all the resentment has gone. After 2 days of not sleeping, you finally can't see the resentment anymore. The resentment entered a place and completely disappeared. This is an endless mountain range that spans an unknown amount of territory. In this mountain range, there is a towering mountain, like a mountain sloping down from the sky. This mountain is called Diangshan Mountain. Diangshan Mountain belongs to the number 1 Holy Land. Henry Zhang was slightly startled. It was the immortal from Holy Land number 1 who passed down the skills and the sect of cultivating immortals was born. It was this immortal who ended the chaos after the cataclysm. Now that the resentment has disappeared, why is it related to this place again? You don't know much about the Holy Land. You only know that if you want to become an immortal, you must join the Holy Land. Many old monsters in the tribulation period are trying to become immortals. They will all leave the sect and join the Holy Land. You want to know what secrets this holy place holds. Why can one become an immortal only here? Why are all the grievances gathered here? Those grievances cannot disappear in a vacuum. Where are they going? You are only a young monk at the 238th level of Qi training, and you do not have the ability to reveal the secrets. You took one last look at the Holy Land and left. You are still a handyman of Shenyang sect, you have to go back to chop wood. Shen Ziyi stopped practicing after 20 years of training outside. It's not that she found the truth about the world. She couldn't go on. She doesn't understand why all countries are living in war. All the people are struggling in pain. However, no one saved them. Shen Ziyi saw thousands of people die every day, and fresh lives disappeared in her eyes. She wants to go back to the mountain to find out. She returned to the sect and knelt before the leader of the Shenyang sect. Disciple, are you already in the nascent soul stage? Sect leader Bai Shuyuan said in surprise. Yes, master. Ziyi nodded. Bai Shuyuan frowned and said, you seem to be in trouble. Master, Ziyi asked, there are constant disasters everywhere, and people are in dire straits. There are wars every day, and people are dying every day. Why don't we take action? Why don't other sects take action? This is not a feudal dynasty like the ancient times in previous lives. Immortal cultivators have the ability to change the world. Natural disasters are terrible disasters in the eyes of the people, but immortal cultivators can change everything. As long as they take action, they can make the people live better. Bai Shuyuan frowned. Ziyi, this is a human matter and has nothing to do with us. World. Ziyi was puzzled. Master, we are human beings too. Nonsense. Bai Shuyuan said coldly, we are cultivators of immortality, and human beings are nothing more than ants to us. Would you help the ants repair their nest because the dam burst? Ziyi looked shocked. We are all humans, how come they are ants? They are all living humans. Ziyi, in order to become an immortal, you must give up all love and desire, otherwise you will not be able to become an immortal. Bai Shuyuan said patiently, you are an unprecedented genius in the Shenyang sect. Don't go astray. If you can become an immortal only by severing love and sex, I would rather not become an immortal. Ziyi shook his head and retorted, in the past 2,000 years, I haven't heard of anyone becoming an immortal. Maybe it's because he took the wrong path to end love and love that he couldn't become an immortal. Asshole. Bai Shuyuan's eyes widened and he was about to knock Ziyi away. However, he restrained himself. Bai Shuyuan said gently, disciple, you should go and think about it behind closed doors. Come out after you have figured it out. Seeing Ziyi being taken away, Bai Shuyuan's gentle eyes turned a little bit colder, with a hint of greedy heat in this coldness. In the year 3036 of the Chinese calendar, you are already 50 years old. Your cultivation has reached the 999th level of the Qi training period. You quietly left the Shenyang sect and came to a deserted place. Here, you have broken through to the 1000th level of the Qi training period. On this day, the Shenyang sect, who was thousands of miles away, felt that the spiritual power around him suddenly disappeared. Many cultivators who are cultivating have even vomited blood and almost become possessed. The immortal cultivators headed by Bai Shuyuan flew into the sky and looked to the east in surprise. It seems like a black hole has appeared there, absorbing all the spiritual energy within a radius of thousands of miles. Sect Master, are you a senior who has transcended the tribulation period? An elder asked. Bai Shuyuan shook his head and said solemnly, I'm afraid it won't cause such a big sensation during the tribulation period. Let's go and have a look. A group of immortal cultivators flew to the east. It's just that they are destined to be in vain. You have returned to Shenyang sect. You heard about Ziyi returning to the mountain and being imprisoned. You came to Suoling Peak and found Ziyi. Ziyi looks at you in surprise. Zanyang, why are you here? Why is our beautiful girl in the sky so imprisoned? You asked with a smile. Stop joking with me, I'm not in the mood. Ziyi turned around, feeling very depressed. You come to Ziyi and ask her, did you gain anything after going down the mountain? There is no gain, I am only disappointed. I don't understand why cultivators are like this. Ziyi told you everything I saw and heard at the foot of the mountain. If she didn't talk, she was really afraid that she would go crazy. You licked your ears and listened. Did you hear that? What sound? I can't hear it. Ziyi shook his head. It's the cries of the people. They are asking for the blessings of the gods. You said with a half smile, however, the immortal cultivators have failed them. Ziyi is silent. You stand up and walk down the mountain. Where are you going? Ziyi asked quickly. I'm going down the mountain. I'm tired of these people crying in my ears every day. So, do something for them and shut them up. You said leisurely. Can you take me with you? Ziyi's eyes lit up. Take you. It's dangerous to follow me. You shook your head. I'm not afraid of danger. If you let me stay here and do nothing, I would rather die. Ziyi's eyes dimmed slightly. It's just that I can't go down the mountain now. I need a maid, call me master, and I will take you down the mountain. You looked at Ziyi with a smile. If you can take me down the mountain, I will always call you master. Ziyi hummed, not believing what you said. Let's go then. You waved. Ziyi follows you doubtfully. Ziyi, stop. Not far away, a law enforcement elder blocked the way. Hey, who are you? He looked at you in surprise. You smile and bow slightly. Elder, I am taking my little girl down the mountain. Zanyang, don't be ridiculous. He is a great monk in the late nascent soul stage. After Ziyi saw the elder, he stopped thinking. Elder, I asked him to come. It will be better if you let him leave. Humph, trespassing on Suo Ling Peak. Death. The elder's eyes were cold and he slapped it down with a palm. A huge spiritual energy palm print comes. Ziyi is horrified, and quickly blocks in front of you, desperately trying to save your life. Your cultivation level is still a bit low. Your body moved and landed in front of Ziyi. The spiritual palm print falls on your head, making your hair tremble. What's going on? Both the elder and Ziyi were stunned. Elder, can we leave now? You asked patiently. The elder looked solemn and asked, who are you? At the same time, he was also making secret decisions and notifying the leader secretly. I'm just an ordinary handyman disciple of our sect, not worth mentioning. You noticed the elder's actions, but didn't care. The elder remained silent, with an expression of disbelief on his face. After a few breaths, the leader fell from the sky and landed next to the elder. Soon, all the elders came one after another, and even a supreme elder also came here. A strong man who can physically withstand a blow from an immortal cultivator in the late nascent soul stage is probably not in the divine stage. They surround you and look at you solemnly. His cultivation seems to be chi training. An elder who is good at investigating said in surprise. Impossible, my blow just now. Nothing happened to him at all. The law enforcement elder said flatly. Is that hiding the aura? The elder frowned. Is it possible that you are not wrong? I am indeed in the chi training period. It's just that the chi training level is high. You said. Haha, how high can it be? 9 floors. The elder sneered. It's not too high, it's only level 1000. You shook your head. Sorry, I just advanced to another level. Now it's level 1001. That's enough. Are you teasing us to deceive our Shenyang sect? Bai Shuyuan said with a cold expression. Forget it, I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you NPCs. You looked around and said slowly, I want to take Ziyi away. Which of you is in favor and who is against it? It seems that you know the wonders of the purple-clothed wood spirit body, so you came to snatch it. Bai Shuyuan said coldly. What's so magical about the wood spirit body? You tilted your head, looking a little confused. Ziyi was also slightly startled. Doesn't she just have good qualifications? What's so magical about her? Bai Shuyuan sneered. Haha, you insist on taking Ziyi away, what's the point of pretending now? Master, we can't let him leave today. Otherwise, the news of the wood spirit body will be spread. Then we can only refine the purple clothes into elixirs in advance. The Supreme Elder said. Refining elixirs? Ziyi asked blankly. Master, you want me to refine elixirs? Disciple, your wood spirit body contains powerful life force. The refined elixir can increase the chance of a cultivator surviving the tribulation. When I become a master and become an immortal, I will remember you forever. Bai Shuyuan looked at Ziyi greedily. It turns out that you have always been kind to me because I can be made into elixirs. Ziyi said with a pale face. If you can become an immortal as a teacher, your merits will be immeasurable. Bai Shuyuan smiled slightly. Okay, stop talking, I'm so sick of you. You interrupted Bai Shuyuan, pulled out a hatchet from your waist, and turned around and asked, Girl, do you know what my knife is called? This is probably a hatchet. Ziyi said unconfidently. Wrong, it used to chop wood. However, it kills more pigs than chops wood. You said calmly. You looked at everyone and said, I'm in a hurry, so you can come together. HMPH, the leader asked me to try him first. An elder from the late nascent soul stage stood up. HMPH, Elder Chu is a body-refining nascent soul, and his physical body is very powerful. He is invincible at the same level. Many elders have great confidence in him. The elder's figure flashed and he was in front of you. Eat me. A spiritual knife appeared in his hand and struck your head hard. The blade struck you on the head, and it was shocked back. Looking at the blade again, a gap has appeared. The scene was completely silent, and no one seemed to be able to react to all this. Now it's your turn to take my knife. Your voice was calm, you raised the knife and struck it down casually. A cold light flashed between heaven and earth, as if both heaven and earth were eclipsed by this sword. The sword energy, which was hundreds of meters long, flashed past, and Elder Chu turned into flying ashes. Every material along the way, including the Supreme Elder and the 5 elders, were all destroyed by your sword. The sword energy pierced the sky, shattered the sect-protecting formation, and disappeared 10,000 meters away. The sword energy seemed to have opened a huge wound in the blue sky, and it was so dark inside that it could not heal for a long time. Everyone stood there, staring stupidly at the trace that was tens of thousands of meters long. Henry Zhang was also a little dumbfounded. He knew he was quite strong. But, is it so strong that it is unreasonable? Isn't this a perfect match for the sky? I'm sorry, I just broke through. I didn't control my strength well. You spread your hands and said, to express my apology, I will strike again with less strength. You didn't give them a chance to react, so you slashed again. The sword energy flashed, passed through Bai Shuyuan's body and disappeared. Not bad, not bad. This knife is perfect. You nodded, very satisfied with your craftsmanship. What kind of knife is this? Bai Shuyuan stood there and asked. Butcher's knife. You said. What sword technique? Bai Shuyuan asked again. Pig-killing knife technique. You responded seriously. Good sword, good swordsmanship. Bai Shuyuan murmured a few words, and his body exploded into blood mist with a bang. His soul did not escape either. It was completely wiped out under this knife. It's your turn. You looked at the other elders present. Senior, spare your life. All the elders knelt down and kowtowed to you. The first time I took action, it didn't kill me quickly. You frowned, a little dissatisfied. After hearing your words, the elders kowtowed even more happily. Forget it, you are still of some use. You said, you all go down the mountain. Go down the mountain. Everyone looked confused. Little girl, tell them what to do. You waved. You yelled several times in a row, and finally your head snapped to Ziyi's forehead, causing her to come back to her senses. Ziyi was extremely shocked and asked, why are you so strong? Because I practice very hard. You said matter-of-factly, also, call me young master. Ziyi covered her head and asked in disbelief, no matter how hard you work, it will only be 40 years. How can you be so strong? Henry Zhang rolled his eyes. Why, let me tell you, I have an emulator and a golden entry. Ziyi looked excited and began to order the elders to let them and all the disciples of the sect go down the mountain to help the people. Help the people. The elders looked confused and didn't understand why they wanted to help the people. It's just that after they saw the butcher's knife in your hand, they wisely didn't say anything. Under Ziyi's arrangement, all the immortal cultivators were sent out. When the immortal cultivator takes action, no one dares to listen. It easily ended the war in the 5 countries under the Shenyang sect. They began to use their magic power again to control environmental disasters in major countries. At the same time, they also used storage rings to transport a large amount of food. The immortal has descended to earth. The immortal has descended to earth. The immortals heard our prayers and came to help us. The immortals did not give up on us. Our sincerity moved God. Hundreds of millions of people in 5 countries watched all this and shed tears of excitement. They worshipped and cried bitterly. You stand at the top of the Shenyang sect and everything is under your eyes. Girl, don't you think it's ridiculous? You said lightly. What's so funny? Behind you, Ziyi looks up at you, his eyes shining. The Shenyang sect's sphere of influence covers thousands of miles, you said, but the 5 countries can only stay in a corner of Anan with a harsh environment. You point your finger at those fertile plains and jungles filled with birdsong and fragrant flowers. Look, how nice the environment here is. But mortals can't come in. Zi clenched his fists and said angrily, I asked some elders. They said that only by occupying these resources can the immortal cultivators make the best use of them. Mortals are ants and have no qualifications to be in these places. Yes, immortal cultivators are human beings too. Why do they live so well? You sneered slightly. Thousands of years ago, they were all ordinary people. If there are no mortals, where would the immortal cultivators come from? If these immortal cultivators consider themselves to be transcendent, they are not the same kind of life as mortals. Then as a stronger person, can he drive them all away? Now, they actually worship the immortal cultivators. Do you think it's funny? You said with a smile. Zi said seriously, these worships are all because of you. Haha, I don't care about this. You smiled calmly, I'm just following my heart. Follow your heart, Zi said with a smile, fortunately you are not a psychopath. Otherwise, if you were so strong, the world would be over. How do you know I'm not a psychopath? You looked at Zi with a deliberate smile. Zi's eyes were slightly flustered, but soon she saw the amusement in your eyes. Huh, I don't believe it. You're a 50-year-old single man. Zi snorted coldly. Who are you talking about? I'm not the one. You waved your hands and said excitedly, I broke the precept when I was 10 years old. When I was 20, I lived among thousands of flowers, so don't let any of them touch me. Zi just covered his mouth and snickered. Her face is bright and her eyes are moving. Looking at you with a smile. Hey, it's a bit beautiful. Henry Zhang couldn't help but swallowed when he looked at Zi in the picture. Otherwise, it would be just a simulation anyway, so why should you take it into consideration when you act? You look at Zi steadily, your eyes slightly fiery. Your fiery gaze made Zi panic, and her cheeks couldn't help but get a blush. Girl, you stepped forward and held her baby's tears. Master. Zi was frightened, withdrew his little hand and took a few steps back. You don't want to. Forget it. You retracted your hand and turned around. Shen Zi watched Zan Yang turn around and couldn't help but be stunned. Smelly young master, stinky Xuanyang. I'm just shy. You deserve to be single. Shen Zi gritted her silver teeth and wanted to kick Henry Zhang down the mountain. She secretly cursed Xuanyang, but looked at his back with incomparable admiration. The man in front of me is so powerful. Moreover, his heart is as broad as the universe. Obviously he can regard everything as ants, but he still cares about the people of the world. How could she not admire such an outstanding man? However, this is just worship, not love for him. Of course, if the man in front of her forced her to do something, she would obey. Thinking of this, Shen Zi's little face turned slightly rosy. The immortal cultivators are providing disaster relief in 5 countries, but they are secretly colluding with each other and intending to kill you. They even sent people to other sects to ask for help. It's all in your eyes, you didn't stop it. This was originally part of your plan. Your purpose is to let these immortal cultivating sects take the initiative to come to you. On the 3rd day, you sit on the deck chair and bask in the sun comfortably. Ziyi is behind you, massaging your shoulders. Rub your legs for me again. You said lazily. Humph, you really treat me like a little maid. Ziyi pouted, very unhappy. However, he still squatted in front of you obediently and rubbed your legs. Henry Zhang couldn't help but feel jealous when he saw himself enjoying the massage from the beautiful woman in the simulation. You suddenly stood up, and Ziyi was so frightened that he quickly raised his head. He finally couldn't help but show off his bestiality. Do I want to resist? Shen Ziyi thought in panic. However, she soon knew something was wrong. Because, the young master stood in front of her. At the same time, an old man appeared in the sky. He didn't emit any breath, he just appeared out of thin air, and then stood quietly in the air. It was as if the ground was beneath his feet. Just looking at him, Shen Ziyi felt a palpitation in his heart. The wind stopped and the clouds dispersed. It seemed that everything surrendered in front of him. Only her young master looked at the old man with interest and a smile on his face. Shen Ziyi's frightened heart felt inexplicably calm. You looked up at them and covered your nose. Sir, you smell like corpse. Do you deserve to die? The old man falls in front of you. He puts his hands behind his back and says with a smile, "It's not easy for me to cultivate to the stage of transcending tribulation. If I don't become an immortal, I won't bear to die." "Nothing wrong." You nodded and said, "Then why don't you become an immortal?" "It's difficult." The old man shook his head. "For thousands of years, none of our sects have become immortals." "Isn't that Holy Land number 1 said to be able to become an immortal?" You asked. "However, all the seniors in the tribulation stage who entered the Holy Land have never appeared again." The old man said meaningfully, "I don't want to go unless it is absolutely necessary." "Why do you think immortal cultivators cannot become immortals?" You asked. There was a trace of confusion in the eyes of the old man. The Holy Spirit said that one must be too great to forget love and to cut off love and desire to become an immortal. But the desire to become an immortal is still there, so how can one cut off love and desire? If you can't stop your love and desire, you will be invaded by inner demons during the heavenly tribulation and fail to overcome the tribulation. The old man sighed. "Ha ha, you believe what the Holy Spirit says." You sneered. The old man said enviously, "There are immortals alive, what are you trying to do by lying to us?" "Then why no one can become an immortal after the catastrophe?" You said, "Have you never thought about the reason?" It's very simple. Before the catastrophe, there must have been magic weapons and elixirs to help overcome the tribulation. For example, the old man looked past you and looked at Ze greedily. The elixir made from the body of the wood spirit can increase the success rate of overcoming the tribulation by 10%. I'm telling you, you've only had a few days to live, and you're still running here to stand up for the Shenyang sect. You shook your head. That's right, all the sects in the world have been destroyed, and I don't care. The old man said with a smile, "But the body of the wood spirit is worthy of my leaving seclusion." Ziyi smiled bitterly, "I didn't expect that I was so important." "Little girl, it's not that I don't care about you. I can't beat him." You turned around and said, "How about you go with him?" Ziyi looked pale and nodded, "Okay," she said and was about to walk over. "You're so big, don't you know I'm joking?" You gave Ziyi a headache. "No." Ziyi covered his forehead and looked at you with tearful eyes. "Little friend, you are really unwise." The old man shook his head regretfully. "Ha ha, my butcher's knife hasn't drunk the blood of the cultivator of the transcendent tribulation yet." You pulled out the hatchet and looked at the old man with a smile. You and the old man looked at each other, and the world around you suddenly became deathly quiet. Wind, rain, thunder, lightning. The old man chanted softly. In an instant, the sky and the earth suddenly darkened. Violent winds, rain, storms, thunder and lightning hit you. This is the power of nature, but it is easily controlled by the old man. You nodded thoughtfully. It turns out that during the tribulation period, you can control the laws of heaven and earth. It's really cool. I'm relatively simple. I only have a butcher knife. You said enviously. The butcher's knife in your hand is slowly slashed out, and a bright light appears in the dark sky. Open the world with one knife. You tore a hole in the world. One strike decides the world. The violent wind and rain suddenly stopped, and the lightning and thunder disappeared without a trace. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.